Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 137. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the CGS forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. I worry about when this body will wear out because it's currently fit for a prime celestial such as myself. So says the sensei of Whatnot and master of the Whatbo Fitness series, coming to your DVD and Blu-ray player in late 2008.
How's it going, eh?
This episode, we're going to be talking about Final Crisis Submit and Final Crisis number 4. We also have a Trinity segment. We're going to be continuing our Trinity catch-up. This what's funny, our Trinity segment was supposed to be a shorter Trinity segment, but then you and I got on a ridiculous tangent, admittedly my fault, on Superman, and we'll leave that kind of for that. But it was actually, it's an interesting commentary on Superman right now between the two of us, considering how prominently he's being featured in his own book, and Trinity, and then Final Crisis, so we'll share that. We have some listener voicemails and audio comments that we're going to be sharing on this episode as well. One from Rick Croxton. It was on Flash Gordon, so we're going to be sharing that one. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. We're continuing to support the Hero Initiative, and if you want more information, visit www.heroinitiative.org or call 310-909-7809. We have a handy-dandy link on ragingbullets.com, and really, I encourage people, just the cost of a comic book even, just to send that out to Hero Initiative every so often. It's kind of a way to thank some of the classic creators who are in need of medical aid and assistance and things like that, and just don't have the financial backing. Please consider donating to that. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. I actually just gave you a copy of Gone Volume 6, and Gone Volume 7 is coming out from the CMX line. Written by Masashi Tanaka. Join Gon for the final volume of this classic series. It's Gon doing what he does best, helping targets of predators and having a little fun along the way. This time it's about families, as Gon befriends both a mother bird and her babies and an orangutan and her brood. But the little guy's big appetite may just get him and his friends in trouble. It's 176 pages, regularly $5.99, 40% off only $3.59. And this will be the last volume of the series, so it's only 7 volumes long. It's a wonderful visual experience. I got hooked on it. Gail Simone, in an interview, had mentioned this ages ago. And it was one of those that just kind of stuck with me. And when DC started re-releasing them, I'm like, ooh, kind of a nice recommendation for something. And it's completely silent all the way through. And it's just a wonderful example of how a completely silent book can have just as much depth and storytelling as a book filled with words. And it just the scripting in that, I would love to see a script for Gone, just to see how that's all.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, and you were paging through Volume 6 as we were getting ready for this episode, so. Supergirl, Cosmic Adventures in the 8th Grade, number 1. This is written by Landry Walker, art and cover by Eric Jones. Meet Linda Lee. She's the newest kid on the block, and the planet too. Find out how an ordinary girl from Krypton became the most extraordinary girl on Earth in the pages of this brand new monthly series. And if you think life is tough as a hero, try being in the 8th grade. And I was really excited for this one. It's regularly $2.50, only $1.25 with the 50% off. It's $1.25.
Yeah, you can't pass that up, and you can't beat that with the stick.
But you've got a line right now. It's publishing Tiny Titans, the Super Friends book, and the Shazam.
Billy Batson,
Billy Batson book, which is fantastic. The Johnny DC line's batting 1,000 for me, so I'm just picking it up just on general principle that they're publishing interesting books that are fun. So that's enough for me. Whatever your shipping preferences, bag and boarding preferences, DCBS accommodates your collecting needs. In Stock Trade's Book of the Month, chosen by Simulated Stereo, Doom Patrol Volume 2, The Painting That Ate Paris. Written by Grant Morrison, art by Richard Case and John Nyberg, cover by Brian Boland. This basically collects the issues 26 to 34 from Grant Morrison's groundbreaking run on Doom Patrol. Regularly $19.95, only $10.57 with their 47% off discount they're supporting us with. Heavy Liquid hardcover is also going to be available from there by Paul Pope. This is completely recolored for the first time with bonus sketch material. Meet S, a man addicted to heavy liquid, a substance that's both a drug and an art form in a future New York that's a sci-fi metropolis. Regularly $39.99, 37% off, only $25.19. And I think I'm going to pick that one up because he did that Batman Year 100, and I really enjoyed his artwork. So I'd love to read, the story hook sounded really good to me, and to pick that hardcover up at a discount, the $39.99 for me is a bit steep, but the $25.19
That's doable.
Yeah, I can handle that one. So InStockTrades.com is your source for your collected edition needs. Thanks for supporting us, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. I want to tell everyone to please check out RagingBullets.com. Show news updates, listener-generated content, Life in the Gutter blog. We've got a blog from Mart that's going up there now that I'm linking to as well. I've also linked to our listener rants section. For those of you that don't like going to the forum, it's just kind of not your thing, if you go to our website underneath the columns section now, you're going to see a direct link to listener rants. You don't need to join the forum to read them. A lot of our listeners are posting their own commentary on books we're covering and books that they're just enjoying. Skajam's a good one. Mart's a good one. I could go on and on. There's just wonderful listeners who just either are responding to posts from other listeners, posting their own comments on books that they're ranting and raving about. And I encourage you to read them and check them out because they're wonderful commentary that we don't always have time to get to on the show. And it's a great section on the website. So check out the listener rant section, then link to that as well, and Mart's blog. So between Life in the Gutter and all that, we've got a lot of regular content now that's up on the website. It's great. And we have a voicemail line, 440-388-4434. Or if you go through Skype, search for Dr. Norge, that's me, and you can leave us a voicemail through Skype as well. So it's both options. They go to the same spot, and you'll hear on this episode we got 4 great voicemails that we're sharing and commenting on, so that's great. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in the plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Cool. And let's jump right into Final Crisis Submit and Final Crisis number 4.
Hello, Sean and Jim.
Hey, Sean and Jim. This is Dave, Simulated Stereo, calling from, as always, South Korea, just below the 38th parallel. Just finished listening to episode 135 and really enjoyed your discussion on Batman 680. The whole RIP storyline has just been amazing, and I really can't wait to see how it all turns out. And just wanted to call and say great work as always, guys, and very happy to have won the contest, and I really hope you enjoy the Doom Patrol trade. I think the painting that ate Paris is just phenomenal, and it's one that I can't get enough of. I've read it so many times. It just keeps getting better every time I read it, every time I see things that I didn't see before. It's just one of those books. Well, that's about all for me right now. I'm about to head into work, giving midterms this week. So take care, guys, and have fun. Bye.
I liked RLP so much, I ended up buying the pre-order of the hardcover.
Yeah.
It was literally one of those things when I saw it this month being solicited, and the price on DCB service, I'm like, oh, okay.
Hey, you can't pass that up. Oh, yeah.
I know. I was like, I don't know. Am I going to grab the hardcover? I've got all the issues. Why do I need it? And then I just saw it. I'm like, I really enjoyed the story so much, and I know it's one of those that I'm going to want to reread from cover to cover. Because
just to see what you missed and see what else their stuff is, and when Absolute RAP comes out, I'll pick that up as well. Yeah,
I like the Tony Daniel artwork on that was solid enough and really looked sharp that I would like to see that blown up. The contest he won, the Doom Patrol. I thought I read Volume 1 of Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol. It wasn't. It was Animal Man that I read for the CGS Book of the Month. They had done. I'm almost positive they did Doom Patrol on one of their episodes, if I'm remembering correctly. I never read Volume 1. So I've got Volume 2, and I'm going to read Volume 2 for the show and just go with it that way. Because one of our listeners actually asked, do you need to read Volume 1? And Dave did a nice response to him, just gave him a quick little overview on what he might need to know, but it didn't sound like much. And that'll be interesting to have that discussion, seeing as I'm sure a lot of our listeners are just buying Volume 2. So we'll have this. You never read Volume 1, right?
I haven't read Volume 2 or Volume 1.
Well, Dave has, so that'll be interesting. If we have questions along the way, when we're doing our notes, we'll just make the questions for Dave, who's read Volume 1, and it'll be a great discussion point to bring us up to speed.
Cool.
So I'm not going to read Volume 1 prior to that show, so we'll be on the same page as any listeners who haven't read it as well, and we can bring in those questions and that discussion from our conversation with Dave.
Cool.
So, yeah, I'm excited for that. So don't feel like if you haven't read Volume 1, you need to for the episode, because you and I are both walking in not having read it, so it'll be kind of a fun thing for all of us. We'll be on the same page there. Our first review is going to be of Final Crisis Submit. The writer is Grant Morrison, the penciler is Matthew Clark, inks and finishes by Norm Ratmond, Rob Hunter, and Don Ho. Colorists are by Richard and Tanya Horry. Letterer Steve Wands, associate editor Adam Schlagman, and editor is Eddie Berganza. The cover is by Matthew Clark with Pete Pantazis, and the sliver cover by Rodolfo Migliari. This one for me, and I can't recommend enough, if you have not read this prior to reading Final Crisis number 4, or if you read Final Crisis number 4 and did not read this, it adds a lot to the story of Tattooed Man. So I would highly recommend, pausing this, going and reading that, and then coming back and joining us, because it really adds some depth and all that to it. So
yeah, this is a great lead-in, and it gives you the full story behind Tattoo Man, how he becomes entwined in this story. We saw him in the very beginning of Final Crisis, where it was just a little blip, but this fleshes out the man behind the whole thing.
It's also nice, too, and I mean, I read this after I read 4. I read 4 first, then I went and read this afterwards, but then when I read this afterwards, I went and reread 4 again afterwards, and it added a whole bunch to me, in the way that Revelations has been as well. We had that skip month for Final Crisis, which was put into the whole routine, and this book and Revelations kind of bridged to me what was going on during that time. We got to see the Justifiers taking over. We got to see this world in very different places, how the world was being overwhelmed. And I'll use that word a lot because that really is what this felt like. Overwhelming, disorganization. Everybody was just kind of thrown out of whack because everything was taken down, including technology, and they had no access to communication like we're used to. This was just a huge, overwhelming event. But for me, what added to 4 was reading Revelations and reading this and then reading into that. It added a whole bunch to me.
See, I wouldn't say it was overwhelming. I would say the anti-life gives you structure. It gives you purpose. The anti-life is the answer.
Spoken like a true overwhelmed justifier. That was one of the cool things I liked about it, though, that everybody just kind of got taken by this thing. I really enjoyed Matthew Clark's artwork on Outsiders, so it was great to see him in this Submit one-shot. I really liked the artwork and the flow, and everything just really looked great. The whole art team.
And there was some beautiful panels that, as we talk about this, I'm just going to say, man, that was just like really cool. Just, things. So you're going to hear some art gushing coming up.
I've really enjoyed this and some of the other minis because we get to see Black Lightning's daughters from the beginning, and I loved seeing the Green Lantern quarantined Earth and scope, scale, things like that. Black Lightning delivering the Daily Planet newspapers, done on a much smaller way to get the word out, kind of like a Pony Express kind of deal, because they aren't able to use the traditional mediums that we're all used to at this point. Life will make you doubt, and dark side symbols are everywhere. Really added a build for me.
Yeah, and I tell you, this is one of those art moments I was talking about gushing. Mm-hmm. Just that 2-page spread when he's running, I could hear in my my head the heavy breathing, there's you just watched 28 Weeks, where there's that opening sequence with the dude's running, he's got all the zombies chasing after him, there's no really vocal dialogue, just a dude running, and you can hear him huffing and puffing, just go, 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 and I had that whole same mentality as, Black Lightning just bobbing and weaving, getting chased down by the Hellhounds.
I mentioned 28 Weeks Later a couple of times in my notes, because of the fact that it really this felt a lot like that.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, because, these aren't the slow-moving zombies. These are people who have been possessed, whatever you want to call it.
And these are some metas. Yeah. There are meta zombies, too.
Right, exactly. So it's interesting. I like how the heroes are trying to somehow organize. They're not used to being this disorganized, and this is, shot them down. John Jones is missing, and Oracle's internet's basically been shut down. And now they have to find a way to communicate and rally and organize, and it's harder for them to do in this point. Water conducts electricity, and that cool action setup with him scooping the water and frying the dogs, it shows him as a veteran that has been around since the 70s, and that distinction in operation always gets me pumped up. But it's one of those things like Black Lightning, I sometimes forget just how long he's been in the hero game, and when you see those moments, I was glad for the reminder in the storytelling by seeing him do it.
Yeah, I want a Black Lightning mini. I think this guy is just that opening sequence of running, boom, boom, boom. That's right, Black Lightning. This is a guy who could profit from a mini series, and I think
I'd like to see him in a mini with Tattooed Man. I liked the interaction between the two and how they were playing off with each other. I think there's more storytelling that could be done with this.
Yeah.
Because it was nice. It was interesting drama, I thought, between the two of them with different philosophies. Probably the biggest surprise to me was Tattooed Man's story. Great choice to delve into his family life here, where his story is starting to head, and with the role he starts playing, as we see in Final Crisis 4, I need to feel connection with him. And there's some really solid character development to see him through the eyes of his family and through Black Lightning, and to see the heroes through Tattooed Man's eyes. It kind of rounded off this character and made him more three-dimensional, as opposed to like a two-dimensional character like we're so used to seeing. I had no idea when we saw him in 1 that he would have such a large role in this whole thing.
Yeah, and this is you talk about like the growth of the character. This was really just a it was the introduction kind of build. Some of the walls and hatred that he has towards the masks kind of start to come down, or not completely down at the end. So it's not like a complete transformation. I'm one of the good guys now. No,
dun-da-da.
He's still he's still tattooed it. He's still the guy who doesn't trust heroes, who doesn't trust masks. He's not a villain. He's not a hero. He is himself, and I liked that distinction of this character.
But I did like that we get to see at the end that it's not as simple as him being a villain. And when you see how his family views him and how they know something about him, perhaps that he doesn't even know himself. And how in many ways, this is a story about how his philosophy against heroes kind of caused a problem.
Yeah, a little problem.
Yeah, but I mean a huge one for Black Lightning, because his assumptions were all proven to be wrong all the way through. That Black Lightning brought the problems down on them, when actually it was them who brought the problems on Black Lightning.
Yeah.
And I liked that little twist. The segment where they're hiding in the clothing store, as the anti-life infected hunt for them, his anger and fear that the Justifiers might catch them. Like I said, I just watched 28 Weeks Later, and when I read this, I was amazed at how much I connected with the emotion of the enraged humans that were possessed with anti-life. Not the same thing, I'm not saying it's a clone, but the reactions of the survivors would be similar, and it adds the intensity. They're hiding away, it's most of the people are caught by this thing, there's very few, and numbers-wise, you're overwhelmed, and that's where the overwhelming comes in, because you've got so many people hit with anti-life that we saw so many heroes, villains, it didn't matter who they were, regular civilians, overwhelmed by this whole thing, and it was, that to me was the thing I liked about the minis leading up to this. It felt bigger. It felt like a whole universe thing. But I like, and I'm going to say this is something I really like about this event. I like that it's contained within the Final Crisis event, and that we've got the regular solo monthly books doing their own events right now. To me, it's a lot more fun right now. It's very cool to pick up Superman and read New Krypton. Wonder Woman, to follow her storyline, get ready for Genocide right now. Secret Six has got cool stuff going on. Batman with R.I.P. and the whole Bat family going through that right now. And that these stories are all going, Green Lantern, I mean, we can't talk enough about what's going on there. Yeah. Blue Beetle has got his own little crossover with Dr. Midnight going on, which is very cool. I could go on and on. But I like, and JSA with Kingdom Come. All these things are going on right now. We got these great stories going on in the solo books, and they're not being derailed by Final Crisis. I like that. I respect this kind of approach to the whole thing. To me, it makes my monthly reads. We talked about palate cleansers. It's like right now I don't really need them because there's so much different stuff going on to follow that I'm really enjoying the excitement. And I think Final Crisis is a better story because it's more contained. It's kind of my thoughts on the whole thing. That, it's kind of crazy to say it's contained with the fact that there's so many minis going on, but really, each mini has a different purpose, and like Revelations and Submit really, for me, were the bridging pieces at this point. I liked it, though. It was kind of one of the, I don't know for you if you're having that same experience, but for me, in my excitement, it's very hard for me to choose my top of the stack reads each week right now because there's so many of them.
Yeah, and it was funny with this one because you read the stuff before I got to it, because and as soon as you told me, hey, make sure you read Submit, and I read, I was like, yes, this was the first I grabbed from this pile. Even though this, when these came out, there was still a bunch of other awesome stuff to read. It's like, oh,
it was a wonderful week.
Yeah,
wonderful. Because we had the New Krypton special. This week as well, which was brilliant.
And of course Trinity and on and on
and everything else. Right, yeah. And Trinity, I forgot to mention that as well. That week after week, what a great book that is. The design of the dogs and the Justifiers really works for me here. The helmet looks like something that would overtake you, claustrophobic, covers your face front and back. Almost seems like it would suffocate your personality, and I liked that kind of symbolic look to me. Like, I would be creeped out to have that thing on my head, in general. Forget what it does to you. Mm-hmm. Somebody put that on my head, I would feel, I've got this fear of not being able to breathe. Because I was looking at that and I'm thinking...
Silly.
Yeah, but I mean, that was my whole thing on that thing. I'm like, how would you breathe in that thing even?
Yeah.
And that was where it really kind of added to the horror and the fear of the whole thing. With Tattooed Man, what happens when you spend your whole life telling your family and teaching your kids that you hate superheroes, but it turns out that it's really only part of the story? Because he's been emphasizing that, but he hasn't, even with his family, been kind of... I think they've seen the full him, but he hasn't been, to his kids especially, been like kind of a role model that shows the rounded nature of the character. Tattooed Man jumps in just in time to help out, and it makes sense that people would either change or define themselves in situations this dire. Whose side would you be on? How would you react? Would you join Darkseid's side because of the fact that it's just hopeless and it's safer for you to do that? Or would you be a part of the resistance and take these huge risks because your freedom's more important to you? I couldn't see, especially when we get to see what happens with Iris West and what that world looks like in the dark future, I couldn't see myself saying, hey, this would be great.
Yeah, that'd be Viva la Resistance. That would... I don't know. It's one of those things where when you're thrown into a situation, what will you do when it's the time to act? Will you be able to step up? Will you be able to, fire first and think about, hey, this is probably not the smartest thing I've ever done, but you know what? If I'm going down, I'm taking a couple of them with me kind of attitude because, they're outnumbered, they're outgunned, they're completely surrounded on all sides, everywhere they go. It's 1 versus a million basically, and you're like, okay. And if you don't have meta powers, you're really screwed over.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense, though. This story is kind of a nice one to rally behind as a comic fan, because when you think about it, by our nature, anybody who's reading comic books right now, it is kind of one of those things when you look at people initially who don't read comics, there's a stigma. And people tend to look at you like you're an oddball or something like that because of it. So, I mean, we're kind of used to kind of rebelling against the quote-unquote system anyway. I think nowadays, it's becoming more and more acceptable and things like that. But it's interesting to read this, and I was thinking of something like, wow, it's kind of an interesting story for comic fans because we're all kind of little rebels in our own way. By how much we are embracing this hobby. And I think we are nowadays kind of pulling more people into that hobby because of that and because of media and things like that. But I do think there's still that kind of rebellious nature to us, that we kind of do this thing that's a little outside. I think same things with sci-fi fans, and because that's the stuff like when you look at like your Oscars and awards for movies and films, sci-fi doesn't get honored anywhere near as much as it should for some of the brilliant acting in it, and I think this is a great example of the fact that we as a group, I think comic fans in general a lot of them would be a part of the rebel group, just because we're kind of used to doing that. We're kind of a little quirky, and it's a good thing. Some would cave into fear, others would fight on, but it's a test of character. The family debate over what to do with Black Lightning. They saved his life, but it also makes them a target. He feels like he's been wrongly accused, and I gotta admit, I'm getting more and more curious about this Tattooed Man, that he feels like, I don't know, I've been put into jail for no reason, I didn't do anything. Or I've been a victim of circumstance or place. So it's interesting to see... the cover story about the heroes uniting to assault Bloodhaven really works here. The system is down, and this would be an old-school method to connect with people, and I really like this. It would be hard for some people to deal with a superhero one-on-one. Because think about it. You're in a room with this person. There's a certain amount of an inferiority complex that would develop there. The DCU heroes, for the most part, are well-respected by the community and the law. They seem pretty financially sound, seem to have it together, which would make it hard for someone, especially Black Lightning's case. Look at him. He was, formerly part of the presidential cabinet, and, which would make it hard for someone struggling to find that place for themselves and their family to relate to them. And that's what I ate up about this segment.
And I also like because he starts immediately lashing out at Lightning. And it's, when you first read through, you're thinking, okay, the guy's just a jerk. But then when you start thinking about it, this right here is the representation of everything he's afraid of, not just hatred towards. Black Lightning, you think about it, this could be a very positive role model for his family. This could be a very positive influence on his kid. And every dad wants to be that influence. Every dad wants to be the one who tells their kids how to think, how to act, how to be a man. And here he's now has this outsider just getting influenced, and you can and Lightning immediately, he's got that presence to him. He is a hero. He immediately has that, kind of that follow me, let's keep you safe. Hey, let's do this. We can make it together. And that's, there is no we here. There's us and you.
Right. I like the whole thing, though, with Black Lightning, where as Tattooed Man was calling him out, he was listening.
Oh, God.
Trying to understand where the guy was coming from and trying to connect. And I like that about him because of his nature as a teacher, as a nature of a character. You've got to do that a lot of times. As a teacher, you would have a whole room full of people that you're working with who are very diverse and very different. So you would need to, be able to realize, okay, I need to listen to this guy. I need to understand where he's coming from in order to connect with him on some level. And I connected with him here because I'm like, yes, this is exactly how he'd react. He would listen. He'd realize, okay, I am presenting myself in a manner that's alienating this guy. What can I do to understand him and make that connection? I have to do that at work. So I'm like, yes, Black Lightning. I'm with you. I don't care if it's with somebody else or what have you. I want to see more Black Lightning. I'm starting to really dig him. So it was a cool bit. He doesn't trust heroes, yet feels that he wants that respect for them as well, and that really worked. Now comes the huge reality check. As the family all seems to side with Black Lightning and wants to leave, the Justifiers show up. Tattooed Man assumes it's because Black Lightning and even wants to shoot him at this point because he's blaming the guy for the whole thing. The wife steps in, admits that it was because she accessed the computer. Black Lightning was drawn in due to the SOS that she sent out. Tattooed Man now has to face the facts that he almost got nabbed because of them. Black Lightning almost got nabbed because of the family. He didn't bring anything down on them. He is a victim of the fact that he was just trying to help out a family who is in need. How cool was that?
Yeah.
But then he also has to face the fact, too, that his family did this, his wife did this behind his back because the way he was handling things, she wasn't confident in.
And also, they were already packed and ready to go.
Yes.
They were set to leave without him, basically. With or without his, they were going to leave that school. They were like, they realized they were sitting ducks sitting there. Mm-hmm. So I liked that realization in his mind. It's like, how long have you had those bags packed? Kind of like, what's going on here? I'm losing control of my family. So I was like, ooh, nice.
But as a mother, she would have to make that call. It's like, I'm a mother, these are my kids, I have to do what's right for them. And that's, he's not. So, I mean, it's an interesting conflict, because I think it's a very real one. Was that Killer Croc in the Justifiers match?
Yes.
How cool was that?
That had to be, because, yeah.
This really led to a solid horror flick moment with the narrow escape via the bus, using the guns to hold off the enemy. It was so horror flick to me, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it read really well. Black Lightning and Tattooed Man actually work really well together. I wouldn't mind, like I said, this mini with them because the natural conflict balances out teamwork and makes for an interesting dynamic. Tattooed Man's hatred of heroes backfires as his son shoots the man trying to save them, because they were doing quite well at escaping until that point. And it causes him to wind up with a Justifier's helmet, all because of the fact that Dad didn't balance out his kids and teach them right from wrong. He taught them that heroes were bad, heroes were evil, and you take them down. So it's interesting now that Dad has to face the fact that Black Lightning, and that responsibility for the fact that Black Lightning was caught, he derailed this guy. Now he has to man up.
Yeah. And I tell you, I digged when... Lightning realized what was going on, that, you got these swarms coming in, they're building up that barricade, and he knew he was going down, so what's he do? He's got very little knowledge about the guy, but he knows, okay, this is our only chance. You get the circuit, and he gives him that circuit, which we're going to see later in 4, but I'd like seeing the passing on. He knew him enough to know, okay, I got to trust this guy with this. I've seen him at his best and his worst, and I think his best will outweigh it. Mm-hmm. And that, for me, was a cool hero moment.
Well, because and this shows a good leadership moment as well, because he gets to cut through the nonsense and see the man inside. I think he got to see through action versus words who this man really is, and that was really interesting. Mark does make his choice, gets his family to safety, but chooses to go after the enemy himself and hook up with the Justice League at this point. Basically owns up to his responsibilities and chooses a side. I like that. I liked the bookend bit, because he talked about, Black Lightning talked about earlier the need to save our books and civilization, but with the helmet on, he believes in burning them for the will of Darkseid, basically taking away anything that might give hope or a sense of philosophy outside of Darkseid's. The book, The Origin of Species, you're cutting out a major thing that could possibly, it's all Darkseid's will anymore. There is nothing else. We need to wipe out anything that might get people thinking. Destroy hope. Extinguish hope.
Yeah, and that was actually even the book that they were going to burn when he showed up. Was
right.
So that was a nice coming of circle type stuff.
That shrimp on the Barbie.
Yeah. That I tell you, the one thing I really liked seeing was. We talked about just the multiple action sequences. When they were escaping on the bus and he's making the lightning dance and frying everybody, I liked right in the background you started already seeing the Darkseid statues being created.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's a Darkseid's idea. It had the little scaffolding around it even to show that it was still in construction phase. So I was like, nice. They're not wasting any time because that's what you would do when you go in and you conquer a world. You're going to immediately start having your mindless zombie slaves to build your the monuments and tribute to you.
Right. For a couple of purposes. You notice any billboards, marquees, things like that, he changes to Darkseid-related either symbols or sayings, anti-life-related sayings, with the purpose of continuing to keep all hope away. Take away any sense of safety, any sense of familiarity, and, put up the statues just to show that, again, this is no longer your world, this is my world now. And that's the visual purpose of those things, too. Really, just make everything unrecognizable to anybody, where they can't connect with anything that can remind them of their childhood, hope, dreams, anything they might want to go back to, they won't see or witness anymore. I like that, because it fits with where we go in Final Crisis number 4 with the Flash.
Yeah.
Life is a question, anti-life is the answer. Wow. What just a phenomenal ending. It really was a wonderful book. If you did not pick up Submit, do yourself a favor. It's one of those where I'm almost cautious to myself to say, I really wish they would have labeled this Final Crisis number 4 and then added another issue out of the series, because it really is a necessary part.
Yeah.
I think it was, I'm not in any way mocking the storytelling. I thought it was phenomenal, but I think for a reader who read this, I would have loved to have seen an editor's blurb. Do yourself a favor and read Final Crisis Submit before reading this issue. It's just a personal preference for myself.
Now, with Resist coming out, I'm wondering if that's going to be more Tattoo Man.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that's my guess. Figuring if they introduced him in Submit, they have him in 4, maybe we'll see him in Resist.
Maybe, or it might be another.
I don't know.
It seems like a lot of these minis and these one-shots are for the purpose of giving us a sense of scope and scale. I don't necessarily think Resist has to have him. I think it might have somebody else, maybe, and I'm speculating here, so you might be 100% right. It might be Tattooed Man Part 2. But just if you take a look at Revelations, it's covering the magic, specter, God, religion end of the DC universe that is a little bit different than these new gods, but showing how it relates to all this. I think we're seeing with Legion of Three Worlds showing how the future is affected by these type of, by this whole story. We haven't really seen how that connects yet, but on some level we've got to. You'll see how this connects. Rage of the Red Lanterns, we're going to start seeing, I'm assuming on a cosmic level, some of this ties into.
Right.
I'm curious because they've said in interviews that this does all tie in, and it will all make sense how it all ties in by the time we're done. Rogue's Revenge, obviously, it's very clear how this ties in because we see the Rogues make a choice. And Rogue's Revenge number 3 was just a brilliant ending, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that next week in our Speeding Bullets. We'll talk about that in the Legion of Three Worlds because I don't think we'll do it justice trying to
fit it in here. Because when I'll just say this though, when I read it, I was just like, oh my god. That Rogue's Revenge number 3 was just outstanding. I was like, oh my god, there was so many oh my god moments. And if you've read the thing, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say this.
Yeah. and speaking of snaps, it's like a snapshot of a certain area in the DC universe. And that's what these minis are doing for me, is they're adding a sense of size to this whole event where, because of the fact that it's not crossing over into every book, they're doing it this way. And I actually really prefer this because I'm enjoying so much of what the solo books are doing. I think the creators who are doing their own titles right now are really just having a blast, just kind of, getting their teeth into their stories. And I'm assuming at some point in time we're going to see a reaction in their books to the events of Final Crisis, and we'll see how it all ties into that. But this to me is the way to do it. It's really well done. Let's talk about Final Crisis number 4. The writer is Grant Morrison, art J.G. Jones, Carlos Pacheco, and Jesus Marino. Colorist Alex Sinclair. Letterer is Rob Lay. Associate editor, again, Adam Schlagman. Editor is Eddie Berganza. The cover was by J.G. Jones. The sliver cover, Carlos Pacheco, Jesus Marino, and Alex Sinclair. It's funny, like I said, how much of my enjoyment of this issue is not only within the pages, but within Revelations and Submit and, Superman Beyond 3D, Rogue's Revenge, things like that. A lot of that during the time off really started to make a little bit more sense how it was tying into all this, and especially Rogue's Revenge. When it closed off, it's very clear how that fits into the whole overall storytelling. I liked that. I mean, that was really, to me, it gives us some insight into the plight of the heroes, villains, and citizens who are still running free in the DC Universe, which I like that sense of massive scale to this whole thing. I really like that every time we get a quick recap of the tech being used as a god weapon in the various books, it adds a different perspective and a different kind of tech. This time the aircraft screens added a lot of depth to the idea that they really did use this to get the maximum out of control. Subway stations, DC mobile Blackberries, GPS units, even the JLA's own satellite.
Yeah, the thing that got me when I saw the GPS, I was like, oh, man, because I was thinking, okay, yeah, the internet, okay, yeah, if you're on the internet, yeah, I can see that. Maybe if you're watching TV, obviously, if you got a radio up, sure. I didn't even think your GPS would start, instead of saying, turn right now, it starts, spewing out the anti-life equation.
Because they took control of the satellites.
I was like, oh, wow, this is just a overwhelming, just like, you really see what serious amount of a hit this would give. But not one of the contaminated people was Amish.
How do you know?
Because they don't have any of the technology.
That's true.
They don't have the cell phones. They don't have the computers.
How do you know they aren't
GPS.
justifiers?
Well, maybe that, but the initial wave.
Right.
The initial wave of the contamination wouldn't have been them.
How do you know they didn't start with the Amish and make them the justifiers first? Maybe every one of the initial justifiers was Amish.
You know what? That would be a... Because you wouldn't have that heavy of a resistance when you go in there.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe all the justifiers are... the Amish. I don't know.
You're obsessed.
That's an interesting theory, man.
There you go.
We'll have to ask that at the next con we're at with the DC Nation. Excuse me, were any of the Amish contaminated when the infection? Just to see their reaction to that question.
They're going to grunt and groan and say it's another one of those stupid con questions. Green Arrow is shocked and to a certain point probably scared that the ray could penetrate their force field so easily. Considering the scale of what's going on around them, I can imagine he would want as much protection and security as possible. Paranoia makes sense here. Known villain in the Tattooed Man. Libra had already brutally killed Martian Manhunter. Now he claims to be delivering a message from Black Lightning. It would make anyone skeptical.
I laughed out loud because, Ollie, in a single moment, undid all the good that Black Lightning did in Tattoo Man and Trusting Heroes.
Right.
Just a quick justified all of Tattoo Man's, hatred and anger and whatever you want to call it towards the heroes. There goes Ollie. Oh, well.
And I completely, further emphasized it, I think.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I understand why Ollie initially did it.
Oh, yeah. I don't disagree with
I'm not knocking on Ollie, but it's still, I read that, I was like, oh, Ollie, come on, man.
Dude, talk about insane numbers. The intense group trying to take down the Hall of Justice. That was, wow, scale size on that, just seeing that swarm coming in there, Justifiers. I geek out at seeing Oracle and Black Canary together, and the Flash families are naturally wondering where Wally is. The 2-page spread of the destruction of Bloodhaven Strike Force was very grim and showed casualties on both sides. I really liked that because it made it seem like a much more intense battle, because we didn't get to actually see the battle than if we only saw the heroes. So just seeing that kind of carnage across the board was, to me...
Yeah, that was just desolate wasteland type, oh my god, nothing could survive that. So that was a nice, just very eerie side to it. And they And actually, I think it accented it because we didn't see it. Because we didn't see it. We just have this. So now going through our head, we're imagining the battle.
Right.
That what would happen there.
The Turpin story has grabbed me since the beginning because I mentioned the Fourth World omnibuses and how much I really, really enjoyed those. In many ways, he's the last symbol of the Fourth World as it was. I know we got Sonny Sumo and things like that, but Turpin in himself seems to be like that last holdout because we saw him meet up with Orion's body and just that kind of connection at that point. He has stood toe-to-toe with Darkseid's son, but now is fighting his greatest battle. He is continuing to try and find a way to resist the anti-life. That has impressed me to no end, considering how many players we have seen fall to it. The man is just stubborn, and it totally fits his character. It's great to see that natural personalities of the Darkseid's minions in this setting, that they would all be playing for the favor of their master.
Yeah, and I liked how they're showing Turpin's fighting. It's still the Notebook. It's, still like the old world detective jotting things down on his, with his pen and paper and his pad of paper and just making those little notes. And that was a really cool, I don't know, art design, lettering design. I don't know who came up with that idea, but whoever did, kudos. That was just
probably a combination.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just that was something I was like, man, that's cool.
Yeah. And it really, I liked his inner dialogue all the way through because I felt like I was journeying along with him on his struggle and, his trying to find hope. But then you get to see and again, showing how this world has changed around him, you get to see him even in his head saying, how do you find hope when there is none? And,
I like Kalbach's new body, by the way.
Oh, yeah. But one of the things, before we even got to Kalabach's body, because Reverend Good was complaining about the bodies that they now have and how they are more run down versus the fit for the Prime Celestials before, as Mokari and Simeon and Good continue to debate their worth, and they even throw in there that Granny Goodness's attempt to spread anti-life beyond Earth. And to me, is that how you read that? I read that she's spreading this, taking it now beyond this planet.
It's they're like the battery, the main battery on Oa is within her grasp.
And
because she's
going to
in
send anti-life through that?
Maybe, or send it through the universe, or just, I don't know if they're planning on, if they take down the battery, think about that. That's taking down the Green Lantern Corps.
Wow, what does that look like?
Yeah, so then if you have the power of Oa and all the Guardians, if you can pump out the anti-life equation through them, screw me, you've got the universe there. So I like that. That was a nice little, play on what they're planning and just kind of future revelations we're going to see. So I want to see, Hal Jordan. That's a Green Lantern story. What's going to happen there?
Or does she have a natural connection then with the Red Lanterns because of their rage?
Maybe. It's
interesting. It's interesting to see. I don't know. I'm curious to see. It's got me thinking. I'm not like set on one thing there, but I can see now clearly how that would tie into this. Kalibak, like you were saying, is one sexy beast. At first, I thought he was talkie-tawny when I saw that. I'm like, okay, how did he get in there, and what's he going to do? But then, right away, and it totally fits the nature of his character.
Well, when you see him eating the arm of the dead Green Lantern, that's a good indication that it's not the friendly tiger there.
No, yes. The second I saw the arm, I was pretty done on that as well. But
which also was a cool, just in a cool and a grisly kind of way, where you see the dead Lantern sitting there, the blood stain kind of as from his head probably being smashed into there as it drains down, and
right.
It's it's sickening, but it was a cool thing because there was a little side thing in the background, and you had to look and really see that to go, oh, okay, oh, that's his arm he's eating, oh, neat.
But my thinking was at that point that maybe it's talkie-tawny via anti-life.
Yeah.
So that's why I wasn't thinking it was talkie-tawny in the sense that he was Captain Marvel's.
They're great.
Yeah. I'm glad it wasn't. The inner dialogue of Turpin, really asked for, because he's never asked for help, but now he begs for it. He's struggling to hold, he's begging for help, struggling to hold back Darkseid. He's in the incubation phase, the ruin of a powerful and noble spirit, which he clearly is. Hope being broken is a powerful message here. In order for the heroes to win, they need hope. We see Turpin pointing out that there's nothing to fight for if Darkseid controls everything. And that would be, what world are you going to fight for if he's totally changed it and has everybody? Dude, there's literally blood in the water in the pool in front of the Hall of Justice.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. Tattooed Man versus Ali again continues to work. It does seem natural that they wouldn't trust someone who worked for the Darkseid Club, because he's bringing that up. It makes for an interesting question. Can someone who's been on the wrong side of the tracks be given the benefit of the doubt? they would look at him as a Trojan horse. But you have to think there is also the possibility that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. He has a family and would have a vested interest in keeping it safe. And he talks about the physical changes to Darkseid and how it should have been a clue to them all, with his talking about more and more bad dreams and things.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was kind of cool was, one, when you can start seeing the heroes realize that, the Darkseid clump should have been a clue for us, but that was used more as a weakening tool. That wasn't the threat or the attack.
Tattoo Man
on
was
us.
saying that it should have been a clue to them.
Right, that's
he
what I'm
was
saying.
working there,
but
not
then,
the heroes.
Oracle later on kind of says, yeah, we should have. But what happened was it's one of those things that weakened us. And it's not just the heroes who are attacking part of the club. It's society, if you think about it. How many people went to those things wanting blood? How many people downloaded those on the internet? It's this was the initial phase and the
martial
weakening.
arts and
right. People are like, oh man, this is cool.
That's
these heroes fighting. Oh, that's kind of neat. Yeah,
very contemporary.
Blood, yeah. So it was not just a Darkseid plant. It was a Darkseid. It wasn't just a Darkseid cover, but it was all part of the plan. And I like seeing that.
Barbara adds to the build as people are being taken down mentally on a planetary level, and they are out of their depth. And the constant disorientation works well as in this case. Not only were the normal citizens hit, but we've seen a good number of heroes fall as well. They would put them in a spot where it is hard to organize, especially now that she's taken down the internet. They have no means of instant communication, and again, the missing John, with him being dead, and Oracle being out of the loop. I liked the overwhelming nature of the opening sequence. Barbara deals in facts, figures, and statistics. Her strength is her deductive reasoning. She relies heavily on her technology and the ability to kind of use that as an edge. And logically, Darkseid right now is the master of all. Ollie, on the other hand, is a man of emotion. He goes with his guts. I'm not saying that Barbara can't, and I'm not saying that Barbara doesn't do that. She does. But it's not like, for Ollie, that is what he is. He's an emotional reaction. So it's interesting to see their debate and even the Flash family, they stop it at one point and they go, okay, you're right, and this fits the nature of Barry and Wally. Yeah, the facts support this, but we aren't giving in. That's not an option here. And I like that it's the Flash family. They're the ones that find hope because the heroes that they've been associated with are like beacons of that. Bright red costumes. And an attitude that matches the costume that they wear.
And you think about how many times have the Flashes died and come back. Mm-hmm. So it's the family always holds on hope. And they're the heroes who are running and, basically running to death. And it's what they do. They do it without hesitation. It's who they are. And I really dig just seeing the strength of the family. You see the kids, they're a little bit afraid, but you know what? They're like, are you afraid, Mr. A? I am, but that's normal. Under these circumstances, that's normal. I like just that acceptance and embracement of fear, but it's not going to rule who we are. That for me is a hero moment. Yeah. You feel it because you're human. You have emotions, but it doesn't rule who you are. And I was like, I kind of ate that up, and you can see it even in these little kids. Wally's kids have done more than most kids their age. This is after. This is after all the adventures they've had, and you see kind of like still the little kid there, but you also do see.
Well, they thought they were dying,
right? So
I mean, we've got to see some strength of character in those kids, and the fact and how they faced that. I just want to clarify here. I love the characterization of Barbara Gordon here. Yeah. I don't think it's a negative. I'm a huge Barbara Gordon fan. So the way that they handled her here was excellent. I thought it was a very real, very human debate.
Yeah, and now question for you though. Do you think when Al Gore created the internet, he had this in mind that maybe it may have to be taken down really quickly and maybe told Oracle how to do it? Or is she just that good that she could take it down without his help?
Well, she's so interconnected into everything. I mean, this is Oracle. She's has her fingers in just about everything. So, yes, no, Al Gore wasn't involved.
Oh, okay. Hey, you never know. Maybe he could have, maybe they could have a little bit in there and show on him,
Okay. Now, I'm not anti-Al Gore in any way, but with all due respect to Al Gore, he did not create the internet. And I mean that with all due respect. I'm not anti-Al Gore, so I don't mean that as an anti-Al Gore, but I mean, come on. You have to give yourself, I will say this, you have to give yourself a little bit of a stretch that it's more of a statement on just how much Oracle's entrenched in it that she could take it down.
And
now,
well, here's the thing.
That's a huge stretch.
Yeah, the thing, though, that I did like was just the fact that she could recognize what's coming down the pipeline and kill it as fast as she did. Think about how many more people would have been affected had she not done that. That was I like the fact that it gives them a reasoning why the initial wave didn't take over everybody. Because she probably shut down everything, including satellites and you name it, so it would stop all the transmissions. So I like that. That was a...
Or like you said, there's more Amish heroes than we realize.
Right.
Hey,
I think we'll see at least one. We got to see at least one, man.
Yeah. You keep waiting for that, all right? I think we're more inclined to see more tattooed men pop up than...
Probably, yeah.
I was really ready for this, because this has been a very dark story, but now we are starting to see how the heroes deal with this. And, there comes a point where I'm like, I need some pulp here. Can we give it to me? Ray has used an abandoned Utranet. That basically the villains aren't using at this point. They got that from a highly paced informer. Who do you think that is? My bets are on Luthor. He has always been pro-Earth. He would be the one that would be probably enough into the mix that he would want to. And we saw him, kind of unwilling to join. But I could see him telling Libra, hey, I'm on board, and using this time to... Because he would not in any way, shape, or form be okay with what Darkseid's doing.
Right. He wants to be the controller of Earth.
Right.
Why would he let somebody else do it? Yeah.
But he wants Earth for the people.
He wants Earth for humans, not for metas.
And we saw when he was President Luthor, his strength of character there was, he's just twisted, but he does, in his mind, he thinks he's right. So he would not be okay with this in any way. This is another alien in his eyes.
Coming in trying to take what's his. So I first thought that popped in my head was, of course, Luthor.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking too. I mean, I'm not going to be disappointed if it's not, but... And just for the record, the Hawkgirl shot over the Checkmate Castle was flat out awesome.
Agree.
That was really nice. Uncle Sam was corrupted. Fate and Cyborg also MIA. Kingdom Come Superman as well. These are ones I didn't realize. I don't know, did you know that they were taken down? Sam is a Justifier? Is that what you're guessing?
That's my guess, or if not a Justifier, they've cut off the source of his strength, because his strength is the hope and the spirit of America. Well, if you kill that...
They didn't say powerless.
Yeah.
They said corrupted.
Well, if you corrupt the America, maybe you corrupt him. Maybe he doesn't have a Justifier helmet on, but he can't do anything. I don't know. But
that's true. That's true because the spirit of the people taken down because of anti-life.
Yeah, if there is no spirit, if there is no will of the people,
that I wasn't thinking of
he doesn't have any powers. He doesn't exist. Maybe even
sure.
So that's why corrupted, or maybe he does have a Justifier helmet on. I don't know.
I can see it either way. No, I like your explanation just as well. To a certain extent, I actually like your explanation more because it makes sense that you're taking away. That kind of spiritual, it's the belief in him. That's why he can be different things to different people, like they talked about in his mini.
Right.
Yeah, so it works either way. The Fortress Watchtower lineup just looked like fun to me. Metal Men, JSA members, Talkie Tawny, Blue Beetle, Supergirl, Streaky. As Alan was going through this list, I think I would make my last stand with that group. Because that just looks like a fun group to hang with. I'm like, if you're going to go out, go out with a smile and have some fun. This Watchtower concept, though, because Ray used that to connect to these Watchtowers, it was a nice nod to Morrison's JLA run where they were, working off the Watchtower. So I really liked that. I got to talk about one of my favorite appeals. Freddy making an appeal to Black Adam to rejoin the Marvel family for the end of the world. He seems uninterested until he hears Alan talk about the last stand at Bloodhaven. Sounds like my kind of battle. Because he really did seem like totally like, this isn't for me. But then he heard that, and I'm like, it better be, because I want to see Adam kicking some serious booty.
Oh, yeah. It was funny, because when I started seeing Adam sitting on his throne, I'm like, okay, how and when did he get back into power? But any type of doubt, questioning I had in my head were just completely gone. As soon as he's sitting there going, that might be the type of bet. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to see Black Adam ripping people in half, ripping off some limbs. We're going to see some power Black Adam. Plus, we're going to see a confrontation between Black Adam and Mary Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to that. I want to see once again, because the last time they saw each other, he turned his back on her and said, "You're just a spoiled child." Mm-hmm. Now, what's going to happen next? Is it going to be, is maybe Black Adam the one who's going to be able to turn Mary around? Will he be able to open up her eyes and say, "See, I told you, you're being a little spoiled brat. Fight it." And maybe Mary will be able to resist. I don't know. It's
interesting.
There's a lot of stuff that are possibly flying through my head that I'm like, man, this would be kind of cool. Or maybe Adam, flies in and takes some power away from Mary. Who knows? It's
interesting for me that you're saying, like, with him being back in power. Did you? I don't know what power you took that as.
He's sitting on a throne of skulls, so I kind of took it that maybe he was back in Kahndaq
from the
or
people
something.
That he's killed. He's not in Kahndaq. I took that as being that's just his base of operations right now. I didn't take that as him being back in some form of power because we didn't see any subjects or anything around him or.
That's the whole thing. I don't know where he is or what he's doing. So I just naturally assume he's in power somewhere because he is Black Adam and he is so cool.
Yeah, I took it more as he's in seclusion. Because of everything that's, especially with the events of the Dark Age and everything like that, he would be in seclusion at this point, trying to figure out his next move. And he's, right now he's under the, at least I took this as taking place at the point where he's under the impression that ISIS is no more, and he's just kind of, because remember at the end of Dark Age, he was, pretty much so a done deal. Very distraught. I took this, and I might be wrong on this, I took this as before the current events in JSA and after the events of Dark Age. Because we're seeing him currently in JSA. Right. I don't know where you're. I don't know if you're seeing it the same way I am.
Yeah, I can. Oh, this is definitely after Dark Age because he's got his powers back, so he's got his, the full mojo.
But I'm taking it as before JSA because of the quest that he seems to be going on there.
Right.
So I don't know. Kind of my thoughts.
The one thing I did, one thing comment quick on, they showed Waller, escorting Renee out to explain some stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, saying that Renee has a special purpose that they have for her. I'm wondering, is that going to be revealed from Revelations? What's going on there? Because that's one thing that did kind of catch me off guard a little bit.
Well, you got to remember, with the Checkmate series having come to an end, there's an opportunity now for them to do something with that type of storytelling in a new way. So I took that as we're going to see an evolution of Checkmate involving on some level, or Shade, one of those groups, or maybe Shade even. I think she's more associated with Shade than Checkmate. Although
they were in the castle,
right? So I don't, I don't know who she's going to be associated with, but unless she's going to be on some level a government operative or something like that, which fits kind of her character. Asking questions, going in, and but I would see her being like a very covert. I don't know. I'm curious. I think that's where they're heading with her. But I'm with you in the sense that it didn't throw me off. I'm just taking it as we're going to learn along the way where she's going.
Yeah, when I say throw off, I'm not meaning like, I'm confused. I don't know. No, I'm like, it's that, what's this? What's the? It's that.
You're
it's
intrigued.
It's my intrigue. Yes, intrigue is probably a better word than throw off. Now,
because thrown off does tend to mean confused.
Dazed and confused.
Well,
so,
I can understand. I can understand the confused sense though, as far as you're trying to get a handle on where. And I'm in that place too. I'm trying to figure out what they're doing with her, but I think we're slowly being fed that, and I think we're going to find that.
Okay, now also Watchtower 5, the Superbia, with the Ultramarines. Mm-hmm. Who?
That was from Morrison's story.
Oh, okay. I kind of figured it was a Morrison story, but I was like, okay.
If you look back at his JLA run, and then I think his JLA Classified story dealt with that as well. If I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember which story it was. But the Ultramarines were one of his creations.
Oh, okay, cool.
Bringing them in, it fits.
And that completely makes sense now why they were in there. Okay.
Right. He brought in a lot of his concepts that he created into this. Because they were something that it makes sense that you don't necessarily see them all the time, but that they would also still be out there. So, and it fits this story. Did you notice the art change in this one?
No.
This is Pacheco's art in the Black Adam sequence. I liked how they handled the art because for me it wasn't jarring at all. I actually looked through a second time to pick where the different art was, and that's no insult to either art team. It's more of a compliment in the sense that they were able to...
Yeah, that was a beautiful flow-through. Mm-hmm. It was funny because I forgot that there was multiple artists and whatnot involved with this. So for me to go through beginning to end, nice thing, and boom, nothing, like I didn't at one point in time say, wow, well, this looks a little different. I literally, from beginning to end,
beautiful
enjoyed
book.
it.
It's a beautiful book. I really enjoyed it. So what is the circuit that Black Lightning passed on? Is it somehow, I'm guessing, related to the New Gods? Is this what's going to bring them back? Is that what you're taking, or where are you at?
Okay, now here's the thing with that circuit when Tattoo Man actually starts revealing what the circuit looks like. Mm-hmm. The first thought that popped in my head, and I don't know if it was you as well, was, is he the new Metron? Because he's got a Metron-type look to him with that circuit and all the funky freakiness.
I was thinking, too, it's very similar to what we saw the first boy drawing in the sand.
Right.
Not the exact same symbols, but you got to see, and similar to just some of the... You're right, like Metron, we saw some of the drawings on him.
Is it like the anti-life equation, or is it something that can block it or break, the format or the flow, or will that bring back the good side New Gods?
That's what I don't know. I'm still. I was just kind of speculating. I'm wondering if this is some kind of conduit to awaken them.
Yeah, because
or to allow, very similar to what we're seeing going on now, where we're seeing the evil gods taking on hosts. Are we going to see the New Gods somehow taking on hosts via the conduit? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's also, you think about the term, the circuit. It's, completing the arc, right, completing the flow through. So, I don't know. It's
completing a cycle.
Yeah, so if you have evil, now we have good.
Right.
So that's
and it was
what
very
I was
important
thinking.
for Black Lightning to pass that on, to
Yeah.
make sure that got to... So now the heroes have seen this. So I don't know. I'm interested in it, but it's another one, kind of like what you were talking about before. I was doing a little head scratch and trying to figure it out, but it's so much was revealed in this one that it's nice to have things like this and the question thing where there's a tease and a taste that you can kind of follow along.
Yeah.
And I don't know with you, with Revelations, you're right. I don't know. Will we see more of Renee in Revelations? It seems like Morrison's doing something here, though, that's different than what's going on in Revelations. It seems like this might somehow... show us where Renee's going to go beyond Final Crisis, whereas Revelation's kind of a here and now. This is what's happening with her, and I don't know. So I'm interested. When the shield goes, I liked Ollie's immediate concern for the civilians.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, and how he deferred to the leader. It shows his respect for Dinah and how their relationship had grown. She gets Ray to set up a teleport. And probably my favorite segment in the book, and it's not just here, it's throughout when we see them, the two flashes. Some force reverse engineered Barry to life, and I like how the two connect and jump into business. They're going to save the world like in the old days. And they're in the darkest possible place you can imagine. You see these two bright red guys that are getting a handle on things. Barry's positive nature is something I really needed here at this point. He makes you believe everyone will be safe, and that's a compliment to the writing. They grab a cable to take down the Furies, and Wally notices Diana. And Barry points out that the entire multiverse is avalanching. They have to save everyone, starting with family. Great insight into the Flash nature. They are a strong family, and this fits the feeling their wives had back into the hall. So this flowed really nice.
Yeah, I like the fact that even though Diana was under the influence, she still was Diana. She was still able to track them. She still recognized the speed wire trap that was about to get sprung on them. Once they ordered the Furies attack, she's like, wait, halt, stop. But it's too late because they're up against the Flashes. And even Barry and Wally, Barry reminds Wally, she can hear you when he goes to say something. So that was I like that. That was one of those cool moments. Yeah. Plus, I want to see more of the Flash tag teams. That whole speed wire trap, this zinging it back and forth. I was like, only Flashes could pull it off.
Wally needs to stay.
Yeah. Wally and Barry both need to stay. I want both Flashes. Let's bring back Bart 2.
The nod to the old...
Yeah.
Let's bring back Bart 2. You're Bart obsessed.
Yes, let's bring them all back. Let's keep Jay around for a little while.
I think that's what's going to happen. I do. I think that's what's going to happen.
What?
I think we're going to see a return of Bart. I do.
I don't... But,
Go ahead. Why not?
I don't think we're going to see him in this timeline. I think we're going to see Bart in the future.
But you got to think that Legion of Three Worlds, there's going to be a connection. I mean, I don't know why you're like a spoiler or something like that. We're speculating.
I know. I'm speculating. So
to me, that would be a connection. Legion of Three Worlds would somehow connect with that. I don't know.
And it could be the way they bring back Bart. He pops up in the future and comes back in time, or maybe he sticks around in the future. I don't know. But I think that's where we're going to see Bart come back.
And we're going to actually talk about, when we talk next week, about Legion of Three Worlds Speedsters.
Right.
Because there's an interesting development in Legion of Three Worlds regarding that as well. So I don't want to talk about that now, but which I was hoping would happen too. Ollie's sacrifice shows his strength of character. He can be brash and opinionated, but he always stands by his convictions. He was the only one who could stay behind to make sure they couldn't be followed. They won't get me. I'll use the anti-life arrow. Great comedy to build up the courage in the face of danger. I like when they do that. Those one-liners. I love them being married. It added something to both.
You saw it coming, but even when it came out, you still liked it. It was just like, it's like the, what's that Bruce Willis movie, Armageddon?
Yeah.
When he goes down to the planet and he's like, I'll walk him down. And for a fact he's going to, sabotage, Ben Affleck and go out and, sacrifice himself. You know it was going to happen, but when it still happened, I still cheered.
Right.
Just because you want to see your hero do that. And Ollie was the only logical choice to do that.
Right.
So I was just eating it up. Plus, even more little comical stuff. Plus, the Flashes will kill us if anything happens to their wife and kids. Just little extra funny moments onto that. Just, it's the hero. He's facing death. He knows he has no chance. But what's he do? Does he lay down? No. He starts firing, and he's like, I'm going down swinging, and I'm taking a couple of you with me. And even as they're putting the helmet on his head, he's like, you'll never get us. You'll never stop. The last words are resisting it.
Well, and it's a great sequence, too, because it's brother against brother. Because Ollie's taking down the dogs, pleading with Jefferson Pierce to fight what's happening. Unfortunately, the Justifier helmet is too much, because Jefferson can't, get past it. He takes Ollie down, which I wonder if it wasn't Jefferson, if that would have even happened. And that was the whole key there. It opened up Ollie, that moment's hesitation Jefferson didn't have. Ollie got taken down because of it. Do you think that Dinah sensed what was happening? Because you see her up on the satellite saying Ollie, and you hear of loved ones doing that all the time, and she,
I don't know if she had that mystic sense, but she knew what was going on.
Sure.
And she knew, and I tell you, I love that. You see her that moment. Yeah, you see that moment of reflection, Oliver. But she is a leader. Snaps right in, and she's got her job to do. Okay, let's get these ready. Get the weapons online now.
Well, it wasn't even get the weapons online. It was a status of what is the status of the weapons at the station. Because she wants to know, what do we have to do? What do we have available to us? Thank you, DC, for building off this strong character. Because, the development of her over the past few years has been outstanding. And she's a top-tier female. I love her in the current JLA lineup and how that's working. I love the whole team in general right now. I think it's a great, strong team of mixed characters from your classics to some of the newer characters. It's just, to me, it's just such a great use of her character.
Something that just popped in my head I wanted to talk about earlier.
Sure.
With the mysterious force that brings Barry back, what do you think? Because I was trying to throw around what could have possibly pulled them back. I was thinking maybe it's Highfather, maybe it's the Monitors, maybe it's that mystic force that no one ever mentions that could... Who knows? It's the whatnot of the DC universe that you can't explain.
The Speed Force.
The Speed Force. Yeah. I don't know. There's something that...
I take it as there's an entity that has done this. Because he refers to... Barry refers, so he knows on some level. Maybe he can't name it, but he knows that there was something that pulled him back. What about Metron?
Metron, but I was also thinking of something else. What if... Because we know Clark is off-world with his Superman Beyond. What if Clark was the mysterious force that pulled him back? And that's part of his connection.
I don't see that being where Clark's story's going.
I don't... Well,
because Barry came back after he was pulled away.
But, Clark
I'm
was
sorry,
pulled
Barry
with
came
the
back
time.
before. I'm sorry, Barry came back before Clark was pulled away.
But also, Clark's dealing with a lot of time fluctuations with the bleed and stuff like
He's not.
that.
He's dealing with world fluctuations, not time.
But
we haven't seen him go to the past.
But the Monitor froze time for that moment for him to leave.
But he didn't go back in time. They froze time. They froze time around Lois.
Right.
But time's still flowing where Clark is going. Time was frozen around Lois. They haven't done any time travel, though, per se.
But here's the thing. If they freeze time around Lois, are they only freezing around Lois, or is it frozen around everything?
But there was nothing in Superman Beyond to indicate that they went into the past. I mean, was there anything? They were traveling between worlds.
They threw in the bleed with going through the multiple worlds. Right. Who knows when they're going to pop back up?
Because I'm wondering, it's Clark versus that force that's in there for some purpose.
Right. But I'm wondering if that's how, because we're going to see evil win. We're going to see,
we've already seen that,
right? But probably even going to get even worse. But
I don't know how much worse it can get than what we see with Barry and Wally. I don't think we're going to see it get any worse than what it is. I think we've seen it.
Oh, okay.
How much worse can it get?
Because I was thinking it would get worse, and then Clark would come back to a time right before all this happens.
No.
And maybe that's how they reboot.
I see the Flashes coming back to a time before all this happens.
Yeah.
I think the Flashes are the key. I think if there's any time travel, it's going to be the Flashes. And I might be wrong. So, maybe it is totally what you're saying. That's fine. I'm just throwing out my own speculations.
Yeah, this is my own stupid theory as well. So I don't know. And even if you're in, as I'm saying this, I'm also thinking, the Flashes are the key to this whole thing.
I'm saying that's not where my head's at. My head right now is I'm a firm believer if there's any time travel we're going to see in this, it's going to be the Flashes that are doing the time travel, not Clark. I think Clark's doing something else. I don't see Clark's tying into the Flashes. That's where my head's at. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, this is all. Who knows what's going to happen? That's one of the cool things about Final Crisis is we're getting more of these stories. We're getting more stuff explained to us. We're now understanding, okay, this is what's going on. This is where the thing. But there's still other questions out there that haven't been answered.
Are a huge question right now because
they haven't been in play yet.
No,
the monitors are not in play.
We got Zilovala in play, and then we've seen a little bit from the our monitor that's been trapped on Earth, but we aren't seeing a whole lot from them. So that's an interesting development that's yet to come. So I don't think we're going to see Clark's directly intersecting with Barry's. I'm not saying that Clark might have an effect on repairing this, but I think any time travel is going to be... We've already seen time travel. They went into the future. Barry came back before that, though. And I don't see Clark going back to bring back Barry.
Yeah, I don't know. It's...
Because he specifically said there was a force that brought... There was a person on some level that brought him back. At least that's how I took it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's interesting. I really didn't see where Turpin's struggle was ultimately going. As we see the red sky and the heroes facing this dire fight in the superhuman justifiers, Turpin was not a stopping point for Darkseid. He was meant to submit to being the host of Darkseid, his permanent new body. The crown is put on his head as we slowly see him succumbing in his dialogue. I tried to show them what humanity is made of. But wrestling with Darkseid, well, it's like trying to beat the ocean unconscious. My choice. All mine. And I love that he's trying to defiantly tell them to kiss his derriere as they snap on the crown. It's just, And to me, it added to the strength of the battle that we're watching with him.
And also just add to that minute, the minister just taunting him even more.
Good.
Give me a thumbs up for the triumph of human spirit, or a thumbs down to summon a day of Holocaust that will never end.
Right.
It was just a nice little, we know we're winning. And they're all like, hallelujah, we are winning. And it's just like that whole, even further beating down on Turpin.
But here's where, in the future, this is why I'm saying we're going to see it get worse. I think we've seen it get worse right here. This is where it is. We see in this new world that humans are put to work for Darkseid in labor camp-style facilities. All of the changes to any signs and the clothing even. You see people wearing Darkseid symbol shirts and the similar, there is no individuality in this world. Everyone is wearing, they're conforming to the same outfits and things like that. Television reinforces it. You see Iris, when she goes home, she's watching the television and it's all, Darkseid programming. So it's clear that she doesn't have the Dish Network. Yeah. Iris is terrified, but for the first time, a power that can beat anti-life, love and hope. The kiss between the two, Barry tells her that it's going to be all right. And I love that I didn't just believe it, I felt it. And that's a sign of tremendous writing, like it was an emotional moment. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. And you wanted to see the two of them reunite, But to do it this way, in this horrible future, is kind of like, whoa, what just happened here? And it was interesting to me.
Yeah, now that was the thing when I was reading this. I had like two different camps I was going down. Was it the mystic power of the Speed Force that snapped her out of her, or was it the love that Barry felt for Iris?
Hope.
So that,
I think it's hope.
And I agree with you. I believe it was the connection and all that did that. But I was just like, as I'm reading it, which one is it? I've read that sequence through a couple of times. Is this going to be okay? Is everything going to be okay?
But look at the previous issues, the reference to breaking down hope and, there being no hope. So, I mean, to me, that's what we're seeing here is a need to... And I think Barry is that symbol of hope. From the Silver Age, coming in as a symbol of hope, showing us the root of what makes a strong DC hero is that they naturally kind of build up and give you hope. I'm like sitting here, I'm like, there's nothing hokey about this. This is awesome. And I mean, I'm excited to see him back. I'm like, yes.
Plus I did like Mask Down when he did that. Yeah. It wasn't the Flash doing it. It was Barry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just seeing the man there. So, I mean, that was me. I hope. I'm just like, ooh, yes. And I needed this. I don't know where you were at. For me, this was I'm like, boy, this story, when you're done reading it, it does, it's like, there's moments where I'm like, it's downright depressing. But now all of a sudden I'm like, yes, this is what I need.
Fight it.
And this is the perfect time. Right now, I need somebody to show me, like, there is a light here somewhere, and Barry's that light. I like it. They actually shot Mr. Miracle in the Checkmate Castle.
Oh my god, dude, I laughed. That was another moment where I just laughed out loud. They're like, incoming from unknown, and pops in, wait, we're Mr. Miracle, I can save the planet, and he gets shot. I'm like, okay, there goes that miracle.
Dun, dun, dun. But I mean, I take it that he's going to be just fine, because we've seen him come back to life.
Right. Now, I took it that those for the Forever people, the Forever Children or whatever.
They're the
the super young team. But they became, because if you look at them, they kind of had the freaky, funky look. They didn't look like their normal selves.
Oh, I don't know. Let's take a look at it. Yeah.
Because they kind of like.
No, the other thing I think we're missing here is we don't see Super Bats. We see the girl. She still looks the same as she did. The girl with the green hair, the one with the wings.
So I kind of took it with the face makeup, and it kind of has like an not the apocalyptic, but the
and with him wearing that too.
Yeah, that type of style.
Well, yeah, you're right though. They've changed in some way. Well, there's been speculation on our forums, and I forget who mentioned it, and I apologize. Someone in our forum had mentioned that they thought that they might be linked to the Forever People. So maybe you're right. Maybe it is. They're going to be the new Forever People.
It makes sense because then the Forever People fly around in the car. And
yeah. I mean, so you're right. MO-wise, it does fit.
Yeah.
And that would fit with Sonny Sumo, who was connected to the Forever People. So maybe they become the hosts
of the new Forever People. And that's, I don't know.
Or not even necessarily need to be the hosts. They might just be, like the new version of the Forever People. No, I take it back. I apologize. I think you're right. Maybe that is the Forever People. Either way, I like it. I'm happy if it's a super young team too.
That was a cool usage of them, and I'm wondering, are they ever going to show their backstory and how they got there? Maybe next issue when they'll do a recap how they got. Because the last we saw of them, they were flying off with Sonny Sumo and the original, Mr. Miracle.
No, it's the same Mr. Miracle.
Well.
What original Mr. Miracle?
Well, not this Mr. Miracle looked different than the other one.
It's the same Mr. Miracle, though. It's not Scott Free.
Right.
I don't think that's Scott Free. That's meant to be Shiloh Norman.
See, he looked different than Shiloh Norman. He looked younger.
No, it's still Shiloh Norman.
It is?
I think. Wow. It doesn't look like... Well, you're right, though.
It doesn't look like Shiloh.
Like he's a white guy.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's
but Scott Free's dead, but it's Shiloh's outfit, so I don't know. Well, see, that really confuses me now. I guess I was just naturally assuming it was Shiloh Norman because we saw him leave with the super young team. I guess I'm still assuming it's Shiloh Norman. That's my take on it, that it's still Shiloh Norman. Maybe just a coloring issue. I don't think it would be Scott Free because Scott Free... we saw Scott Free die horribly.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't know if that was who that was or if we now have a third Mr. Miracle. Because I didn't think that was Shiloh Norman.
I took it as Shiloh.
Okay. So, see, I took it not as Shiloh.
Right. That's just, so we're both in disagreement on who this is.
Right.
Okay. But I don't know how this other Mr. Miracle would have gotten with the super young team.
That could be the whole story that, Shiloh and Sumo. That
seems to me like an awfully big story to put in this.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm wondering what's going to happen.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe that'll be a little side story. You're right. There's definitely a story to tell because I didn't see Sumo there, but they might still be in the car. There might be people in the car that we can't see. Yeah. Or maybe Super Bats and Sumo are doing something else. I don't know, because I don't see him there either. I don't know. I'm confused now. You got me thinking. Like, is it the same Mr. Miracle or not? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's supposed to be Super Bats out of his Super Bats costume, and he's become the new Mr. Miracle.
Why would you make when you've got Shiloh Norman? Why would you make a new Mr. Miracle?
Well, maybe Shiloh had to sacrifice himself or something like that. I don't know. The transference of power. Maybe
and we're going to see that in
a new young host
flashback. That doesn't.
Dude, I'm throwing out theories here.
Yeah.
I don't
see that. That to me would be kind of weak. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We'll see. To me, it makes more sense. They shot Shiloh, and you've seen Shiloh come back, and I don't know. But I don't know. We'll have to see. It's interesting. It's at the end of the book, so I'm guessing we'll find out next month.
I'm hoping,
because I'm confused now. And maybe I don't know. There's interesting. Freedom Spirit Falls, though. And this is the big event here, because the only choice is Apocalypse and Darkseid Forever, as Darkseid issues a thumbs down as Turpin gives in. And we see the thumbs down sequence there. Yeah. I didn't ever see Turpin becoming the permanent host. I thought that was a temporary thing at best. Is that where you were at, or
when they first started? Yeah, I figured it was just a flow through and whatnot. And I actually was kind of wondering if maybe they would try to corrupt Batman because they had Batman taken, because they captured him.
What is a flow through and whatnot?
A flow through and whatnot.
What does that mean?
Everybody knows what a flow through and whatnot means. Don't you know
what the hell you're even saying? I just thought there was a flow through and whatnot. You're just throwing that out. What does that even? Tell me what that means.
He becomes the temporary host, and maybe they keep him around for a little bit, but ultimately he would have been dropped off and gone with a genetically engineered body of Darkseid. That's what flow through and whatnot means.
Okay, that's much clearer.
Yes.
You actually have a very good explanation for that, though, because I actually I agree with that. The only thing that's puzzling me right now, I'll say this, leaving out there, and this is actually one where I am confused, is the Shiloh Norman sequence now, because you opened up an interesting question. I guess I naturally assumed that was Shiloh, and I'm still calling him Shiloh, so obviously that's where my head's at, but you've made me...
Yeah, it's the only thing I don't know. That's one of the things, that's one of the many mysteries that is still spun out. There's still questions, what's going to happen next?
3 more issues in, I don't see them introducing a new Mr. Miracle. I don't know.
That's why I was thinking maybe it's Super Bats, and he becomes the new Mr. Miracle.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out why.
Or maybe Sonny Sumo goes on a massive weight loss program.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be... see, to me, Super Bats is interesting enough on his own without making him into Mr. Miracle. I don't see why. You've made this cool and interesting character in Super Bats, because you set up this whole cultural thing with this group, Super Young Team. I like the idea. I agree with you 100% on thinking that they're kind of the new Forever people. But I don't see the need to change them from their archetypes, other than the fact that maybe we got some new God-style paint for some reason. There's obviously a connection between them on some level, and I would think the Tattooed Man from his look, because their look actually matches his.
Yeah.
So there's
with
that.
The circuit. So
maybe you're totally right. Go ahead.
Well, okay, the circuit is the painting which blocks the anti-life equation. It gives them so they are not susceptible to the anti-life equation.
A new look.
That's why we're seeing the look on them. To protect them from the anti-life equation.
I like that. Which goes back to the symbols that were originally drawn.
Right.
And, yeah, I like that. And the symbol, we see some form of symbol on top of the Hall of Justice as well, when they were zooming in.
Right.
On top
I kind of took that as a landing pad.
For the Ray?
Yeah, or something.
Okay.
Or just for a helicopter or for something.
Maybe. I guess I took that as some kind of symbolic nature as well, but maybe I'm diving on that one. I agree with you with the symbols on their face, though. That would make sense why all of the Super Young team has it on there right now. It's not so much that they've changed in some way.
It's a way to protect themselves.
Right. That's why they're all wearing that. So it's the same Super Young team, and they're wearing that as a symbol. Do you think Super Bats adopted Shiloh Norman's costume as a way to get their attention? And Shiloh Norman and Sumo are not with them right now?
Could be. That could also be.
So he announced himself as Mr. Miracle as a way to...
To keep them from shooting him, which we saw worked wonderfully for him.
I think it's Shiloh. To me, the only thing that makes sense is that it's Shiloh, and we're just seeing an issue where maybe the colors should have been a little bit different for the character.
Okay.
I think. That's where my head's at.
Yeah, I don't know. So, and if that's the case, cool. If not, okay.
But it's an interesting debate.
We'll figure out. We'll see what will happen next month.
Right. I can see your side of it on that one, though. It's an interesting issue. Were you ready for more Final Crisis at this point?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm ready for more, and it's a lot of other questions I want to know. What's going to happen here?
That's interesting. Okay.
To the Batmobile. Let's go.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Here, ready to move out.
Hey guys, this is Scott from Simpsonville, South Carolina. I've been a loyal listener to you guys for probably since about episode 9, and I was actually the guy that sent in the report from the Heroes Con last summer. I don't really get a whole lot of time to participate in the forum, so that's probably what you know me better from. I actually had to call for a couple of things. The first thing was I just want to tell you guys that, you know, I really don't have any friends that read comics that I can discuss about what's going on in the world of comics. I've got one friend that he collects Golden Age and Silver Age, but he doesn't read any of the new books. So I really don't have anybody to, you know, talk about what's going on in comics, what we're liking and what we're disliking. So having you guys listening to your ideas and your thoughts about what's going on really is enjoyable. So I really appreciate that and all the hard work that you guys obviously put into it. The second thing is I appreciate that you guys are pretty much a very clean podcast. I can listen to it in the car with my 5 and 9-year-old and 99.9% of the time not have to worry about you know, what you guys are saying, so that's real helpful. So thanks for that. But the other thing was, you know, something that's kind of been bothering me lately about podcast is there's about 3 podcasts, including you guys, that I listen to or try to on a regular basis, and I've had to narrow it down to 2 just because of time constraints with work and kids and everything. You guys and this other podcast, which I won't name, and I don't think I've ever heard you guys even name this podcast before, and I won't bring it up, but they are so negative on comics. They spend as much time tearing apart a comic and talking about how bad it was and how much they did not enjoy it and how, you know, how it was a waste of, you know, a tree and this, that, and the other. And they spend just as much, if not more, time being negative about comics than they do positive. And I know I've heard you guys talk about how, you know, if you're not enjoying a book, you should, you know, take it off your pull list, put another one on there, and because there's so much quality stuff going on out there right now. So, you know, you guys are just so positive, and I mean, I would probably, you know, buy a comic. You guys can make it, a comic about Aunt Jemima. You guys could make exciting. So, you know, I would probably buy that just because of the way you guys are, and that's a good thing. So, it kind of makes me wonder if a lot of these books that these other guys are talking about and being so negative about are not being bought because people aren't even giving them a chance based on what these other guys are saying. So bottom line is the fact that you guys are so positive is a good thing. And I think your listeners realize that. So, but the one topic I wanted to talk about real quick that I am really, really enjoying is Final Crisis Legion of Three Worlds. And I just finished listening to the episode where you guys were talking about issue 1, and issue 2 just came out about 2 weeks ago as I'm recording this. But, I mean, this book just keeps getting better and better. And, I'm wishing that this was a weekly book because it is just so good. And I'm a big George Perez fan and a big Legion fan. So I mean, this is just an ideal situation. But I mean, the artwork, I mean, the storylines, I mean, they're bringing in like characters that I remember reading, from the 80s Legion, the Green Lantern, and Mordru and Legion supervillains and it's just incredible. And I have to say, so far, to me, the quote of the book as of through issue 2 is where Mordru is saying to Green Lantern that he's going to slit his throat and hang it like a pig and use his stomach lining and teeth to perform an incantation, removing all willpower from your fellow legionnaires. The White Witch and I will feed your organs to your friends, then make love bathe in your blood. I mean, that's pretty intense. So that's just some great writing, and just the book in general is just I can't say enough about it. So, but anyway, I know this ran long, so I appreciate everything you guys do. And as a request from Jim, I'd love to hear, with all the singing he likes to do, I'd like to hear his version of One Night in Bangkok from Murray Head. So keep on raging, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
I love that we're getting song requests for you. Like, this is like
One Night in Bangkok. Okay.
Do you know it?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Are you going to...
I think I know it. If I'm thinking of the right song, then I know it.
Go ahead.
Well, you can't... Hold on, you can't just pull it out of nowhere. You got to wait. It's got to fit into the flow.
Where are you going to fit that in?
I'll figure out a way. If I'm thinking of the right song, you know. I'll figure it out.
I'm sure you are. I mean, I don't think
there's any other song.
No.
Yeah, that's One Night in Bangkok. So yeah,
I totally agree with his comments on Legion of Three Worlds. It's great. Actually, we were kind of like holding off because we're going to do, I'm sure, a Final Crisis Speeding Bullets catch up. Can we just talk about the Speedster that made a quick appearance in there? Because it's not really a super spoiler.
Yeah,
they had XS, who was related to Bart Allen and everything. I like how they brought that character. It's nothing that, for anybody that hasn't read it yet, it's not a major spoiler, because it was like literally one panel. Right. So it's not anything that's like earth shaking to the storyline. Because we already saw from the first issue that the other legions are being
pulled in and all that. So yeah.
So this won't in any way affect anything from your enjoyment of it. But I really liked that. That's why I'm interested to see if Bart is going. I'm still thinking Bart is going to appear in this.
Yeah, I'm thinking that as well. And that's one of the reasons I'm chomping at the bit too. Is, dude, man, I love Superboy Prime as a villain. I really do, and he's just kicking it up a notch for this series.
Do you think Clark is going to be able to redeem him somehow?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got a goal.
I gotta support Superman. It's Superman. If anybody can do it, he can do it. But there's just some levels of evil that you can't reach. There is just some forces that are just beyond saving. But could Superman ever give up? And maybe the fact that Clark won't give up on him can inspire him to recognize there's something more to than being just destructive. But especially through the second issue, what some of the stuff Prime does, I'm like,
but I think ultimately that's what Prime always wanted to be, a hero. He wanted to be acknowledged as that, and he didn't have that. He didn't have the kind of upbringing or the background or the world that we had, and then to be locked away for as long. It's interesting. I'm not saying that personally, the only justification I can see with him where he would be redeemed on any level would be that he'd die, but die saving the world somehow. But I don't necessarily want to see that either, because he's an interesting character to use in the. I don't know. I have a lot of faith in Jeff Johns and George Perez that they're going to tell this awesome story with him. I'm curious to see, can he redeem him, and what will that look like?
Yeah, and how could he possibly? And there's just so many questions that are going to be answered and that have to be, and it's just like, what's going on now? I'm excited to talk about it, to read it. It's one of those things where I'm jumping to, right out the bat, because
I wish it wasn't bi-monthly.
I know. This is one I wish was monthly, weekly, daily, you name it.
Yeah, I agree with what he's saying. Weekly would be wonderful, but monthly even would be. I'm not arguing when it comes out. Like, issue 2 was brilliant, and
I jumped on it. I ate alive.
So it's worth waiting for, and it was on time. It was supposed to be bi-monthly, so just so everyone knows, it's not a book that's being released late. It's actually being released when it's supposed to be on the scheduling. But it looks fantastic, so I've got no arguments with it. Keep it bi-monthly if you're going to keep the same creative team and just finish it all the way through, because it's going to be a very nice, complete read to read at the end. It's funny. First of all, thank you for not mentioning the other podcast. And the only reason why I love shouting out other podcasts, if anybody's a podcaster out there and you call into the show for any reason, please shout out your podcast. Or if you're a listener and you have like a reason, like something inspired you from another podcast that you want to put on our show, that's fine. I'm always for that. But whenever it's a negative critique like that, I would prefer that we don't shout out the other podcast because I'm not about bashing other podcasts on our show. As far as the thing about negativity, part of the reason why I wanted to podcast back when you and I got started, Jim, was because my experience, I didn't hear anybody podcasting that had the same experience that I have with comics. My experience has always been, and I've said this on the show multiple times, and it's still my experience, there's not enough time and there's not enough money for me to be able to read everything that I want to read. I literally have a pull list that right now I would have an intense amount of trouble cutting down. I have favorites. I have top stacked ones that, if all of a sudden my wife and my financial situation changed drastically where I needed to do that. But, as collected editions come out, there's this month, a lot of what I purchased from DCBS this month are collected editions. And yeah. I did that instead, and I'm going to pick up some of my monthlies at the local shop because they had such great deals on the collected editions that I really wanted to get that I shifted a little bit how I normally order from them because of the fact that there's so much that I want to read. And that's my problem. So I guess I'm kind of the voice for people that are in that situation, and not that everyone has to agree with me or anything, but that's kind of where I'm at. And it's been interesting. I always thought like there would be more of a distinction between you and me in that. But you in your own way have, for your own reasons, are in a very similar place as far as your comic buying. I think you have the same problem in the sense we talk about a book that you're not reading on the show, and
next thing I know, I'm reading it, and I go back and I buy the back issues, and I'm like, yeah.
But I think it's this kind of the statement of the quality today, and I am a big believer in, and I've mentioned it multiple times on the show, we aren't all going to be alike in our reading experiences. For me, I'm like a sponge. I like a lot of diverse titles. That's just me. But not everybody's like that. Some people are more specific in their tastes, where they like certain, types of superhero stories and things like that. And I would agree with you in the sense that if you hear a positive critique from us, a negative critique from somebody else, that you should in yourself kind of listen to those critiques, try to get what you can out of those critiques and make your own decision. My goal, I don't think for our show, and I don't think, Jim, you believe this, I don't think I believe this, we have these crazy little rants where you and I butt heads as far as what we think about something, but I think ultimately you make your own decisions on purchasing books, why you read books. You and I have had debates over books we're both enjoying, where we've completely butted heads over the most ridiculous things. But that's half the fun, is that it's a very personal experience and a personal choice. So that's our philosophy. It's not a conscious decision. We don't record and say, hey, we're only going to be positive today. It's just, we're sharing our own natural experiences with it. Sometimes people don't believe that, though, and I think people have trouble when people are positive. It's funny how people consider people, well, geez, they're doing more of they're a realistic critique because they're being negative and they hate the book. I don't believe that. I've never subscribed to that philosophy. I think you can be positive and enjoy something and be just as valid, just as interesting. And, I think people can listen to a segment where you and I like something and just say, you know what, guys? And we've had listeners who before said, guys, that segment totally turned me off to the book. And that's okay. They learned from that this wasn't their type of book. So I don't think you have to do that. But thank you for not sharing the name of the podcast, because I honestly probably would have sent you an email and said, or, called you or something and said, hey, you know what, dude, do you mind if I cut out the name of the podcast? Because I'm not here to bash other podcasters. I think, podcasting's a lot of work, and I have a lot of respect for anyone out there who podcasts. They don't have to have the same opinions that I do. They have to have their opinion. Yeah. Throw it out there, and that's great that they do that, and I'm not anti-anybody. This is just who we are and what we do, but it's not a statement on that we're better or anything else than somebody else. It's just kind of, this is what we have fun doing, so this is how we record.
We have fun, we're just goofing around and doing our thing, so this is us, so we can't be something we're not, and we don't want them to be something they're not. So let's all do our thing and have fun.
Well, and just to even address what he said, though, I've listened to podcasts where they haven't liked a book, and because of how well they've done the segment and how really they tried to give as a balanced a review as possible, really telling you this is what was going on, this is why. They had very valid reasons. It actually led me to a purchase because I was curious about the book. So that to me is probably the most sincere compliment I can give them. And I liked the book, but a big shock. But I thought it was a very good review. So we were on completely opposite sides of the fence when I ended up reading the book, but I thought it was a great review that actually led me to a purchase. So I don't think that necessarily has to be. It's I think good commentary one way or the other, where it's well put together commentary will lead you to make your own decision. So that's kind of where we're at. Thank you for that, though. It's a nice compliment, nice comment. Appreciate it.
And we're about to start our next turn.
Trinity?
Our next will be Trinity. But we're going to change a little bit with Trinity, how we're handling it.
What?
Yes, we're going to change some things. Now, one of the reasons we're doing this is Sean and I both love Trinity, and we want to talk about every issue, but if we go in depth into our full-blown raging discussions on it, we will become the Trinity podcast. And
well, no, it's not even that. We will get even more behind than we already are, is really what our issue is.
So we need to, we're going to kind of switch this up a little bit. It's going to be a more in-depth speeding bullets discussion of the Trinity stuff. And we're going to keep going through this. That way we keep up to date with Trinity. And we're actually able to discuss it. Now, when we get to some of the later issues that are currently out there, we know we're going to have more meaty discussions. But, this is a way for us to continue talking about all the different titles we've been talking about, plus also talk about a really cool series that's going on in Trinity that we are still 100% wholly recommending to anybody. If you drop the weeklies because you didn't like Countdown, I'd really advise that you go back, pick up a couple of these issues, read it, because these are some great characterizations of not only the Trinity, but their supporting cast and the other heroes. Plus, it is a really cool story that's building, and we're getting this nice, neat comic book story told in a nice weekly format that I'm enjoying, that every week I get something, it's
a way for us to start getting caught up without skipping any of the issues.
Right.
We can chat about each of the ones, what things we're enjoying from all of them and all that, and then we can get a little bit more in depth as we get more caught up with the big series. Because it's a wonderful, wonderful series. I mean, even the artwork and covers on issue 8 is
Oh, God, yeah. We've raved about these covers. They're continuing to be awesome with the 3 spread out. We've said it one time, I'll say it 1,000 times. These are the things I'm actually going to the DC site and I'm downloading these covers from, for my desktop savers. And I don't normally do that with, cover for some reason, but these I am actually reaching out and getting them.
Background is a 3-part Trinity. Because with the widescreen on that, the 3 of them together make a really nice. It takes up, so anybody who has PSPs, go to DCComics.com, download one of these babies right to your PSP, make great backgrounds because it just totally fills the screen.
Okay, we're going to start off our discussion with number 8. The writer is Kurt Busiek, art by Mark Bagley, Mark Bagley. Mm-hmm. Sorry, tongue-tied there. Inker is Art T-Bear. Color by Pete Pantazis, letterer Pat Brousseau, covers by Andy Kubert with Edgar Delgado, assistant editor Elizabeth Gerlin, and editor...
V. Gerlin.
What?
V. Gerlin.
V. Gerlin. That I don't think is that... I don't think...
It's in the book?
She would be insulted by my
book?
saying that.
Why is it in the book? I'm just saying.
Okay. And the editor is Mike Carlin. Now, here's one of the things about the Trinity.
Stinker.
Yes, you are. I really am enjoying just the build-up of the evil Trinity.
I am too.
This isn't just... These are characters that, they've existed... Well, Enigma hasn't existed, but Despero did, and Morgan Le Fay existed, but they're not what I would call major players. They're not on the tips of everybody's tongue.
Well, Despero's been...
But he's not like... if you ask someone, okay, give me a JLA villain, the first thing they're not going to say is Despero.
Long-time DC fan, Mike.
Maybe. Okay, I will give you that. But considering...
Out of the batch.
Considering the 2 years...
He's the most well-known out of the batch long-term. But you're right, in the 2 years that
I've been reading, the only time I read a Despero story was this, and when I pulled something from before my collecting. So since 1 year later on, we haven't really seen Despero.
Was he part of that group that was at the end of that... was the issue of JSA or Booster Gold, where they had the whole group? Remember there was that whole group of...
Right.
Was he one of them?
He may have been. But I don't remember.
Okay.
But...
I was just questioning. I didn't know if he was... I'm just trying to see where... I'm trying to figure out when I last saw him. I guess I'm contradicting myself there. You got a point.
Yeah. But they're building these villains up over, they've been building them over a couple span. We're seeing them from behind the stories. They're manipulating things, but it's the growth of a hero-villain team. And it's not for, like, the noble purposes that we have the heroes. It's basically for power. They want to be masters of the universe. And you even see, just like, as Morgan Le Fay is destroying all of the Sparrow's men just because they insulted her, it doesn't concern him more with why are they there. And when she finally calms down and they finally start discussion, Enigma starts to pitch, saying, hey, this is what we're offering. We're offering you to be one of the masters of the universe. And we're going to replace the Trinity. We're going to give you all this power. And you immediately see differences in the team because, with the Trinity, you have Superman taking a reluctant role as a leader, even though he is arguably the most powerful of them, and a lot of people gravitate to him, but he does take a reluctant role in leadership.
Why do you take it? I don't know. I guess I never felt that he takes a reluctant role. I don't think whenever there's a crisis, he immediately snaps to action.
But he snaps to action because he needs to step up and do what he needs to do. He needs to be the hero.
What behavior makes you think it's reluctant, though?
It's when there's not an action, when there's not the drama, when there's not the thing. He's not going around saying, okay, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that.
But is that a leader?
Well, leader can, guides and, controls the
example.
Team.
Does a leader control? I disagree with you on this. A strong leader is somebody that people follow by their example and what they do. In his case, he goes into the team. He's not afraid to speak his piece when he's at team meetings and be a leader.
But he's not taking control of the situation. He's not telling everybody what to do. And I'm not talking in a crisis. I'm talking, like, for example, Black Canary is the leader of the JLA.
Okay.
He's never once usurped her authority. Batman has, because Batman's tried to push her and make her a stronger leader. Superman never has usurped her authority.
But
even in a crisis situation.
That's because he, as a leader, steps back knowing that that's not the time for him to take a leadership role. I don't know, as a good leader, you don't have... I disagree with you on what a leader is. Do you think a leader's ordering people around? I disagree.
I think a leader takes command of a situation.
I disagree
and a leader
with you.
makes sure in and out of a crisis what's going on.
I think a leader leads by example. Superman, by the very example that he is a true leader in the sense that I would follow Superman to the ends of the earth because of the fact that the type of man that he is, and that's a strong leader. And if Superman told me to do something, I would do it in an instant. The other thing is, too, if I saw Superman doing something, I would follow that example because Superman is that kind of leader.
But here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Superman would never tell you to go to the end of the earth. Superman would go knowing, to inspire you to follow. But Superman wouldn't say, Norge, I'm going to fly into the sun and die. I need you to do the same thing.
There's a lot of people that do a whole bunch of telling people what to do that aren't leaders.
Hold on. When I'm saying reluctant leader, I'm talking about he does what he needs to do, but he's not doing it for the purpose of having you do it as well.
In a crisis, he does?
I don't think so. I think he's doing what's right.
How come in a crisis, whenever you see it, you see Superman right out there in the front with everybody following behind him? Why does that happen?
Because Superman's Superman. Because Superman takes the point.
Because he's a natural leader and people will follow him because they know, hey, if I'm going to go follow this guy in the battle...
But he's not going out in front saying, everybody follow me, and thinking everybody will follow me.
To do that.
But I'm talking also thinking. He's not going out in the front figuring everyone will follow me. Dun, dun, dun. No. He's doing what needs to be done.
That's not true at all. There's been many times where he's rallied people together. Let's go get them. And he said one big rally charge and all that. We don't have to... I disagree with you. He's a tremendous leader.
He is a... Hold on. I'm not saying he's not a good leader. I'm saying he's a reluctant leader. He doesn't want to be the master of the universe. He doesn't want to be the all-powerful person.
And that's exactly why he's a very good leader is because...
But that's also his reluctant... It's... Okay, when I'm using reluctance, I think I'm not using it the way you're thinking.
I completely disagree with you because I think he is on this earth to set an example, to be a leader to everybody. And that's exactly how his parents raised him. I disagree with you. The fundamental goal of Superman is to be a shining beacon, an example for others to follow. That's why he wears the costume that he does. That's why he's Clark Kent sometimes, because he always has to be this shining example for everyone, this leader for everybody. That's his life choice. That's why he wears the red and blue. He wears that because he's a leader and Beaker all the time. The only time he doesn't have that role is when he's Clark Kent. That's the only time he's not that guy.
See, but here's the
He is the ultimate. He's the ultimate example for everybody when he's in that costume. He is a leader to everyone, not just the heroes. I don't think a leader is the person who orders everybody around. That we follow. I mean, Superman is an example. We follow Superman as an example. I want to be as good as Superman is. That's leadership, and he's not even real. I disagree. I think he's a tremendous leader. I don't think there's anything reluctant about him. I think the second he donned that costume and he made that choice to say, I am going to be this inspiration, I am going to be this person that's going to take everything that the Kents have shown me and share it with the world and use my powers in some way to be some force of good, some force of change. He is a leader for all of us.
But he's not trying to control.
But
hold on. Just give me a second. Give me a second.
Okay.
Give me a second. He's not trying to control. Whereas on the villain side, they're seeing their leadership in power and control.
And that's why they always fall apart.
That's the conflict I'm trying to show the differences.
Who is a good villain leader that people follow regardless?
None, because you can't trust them.
Exactly. So that's because they're always trying to control everybody.
See,
they're always what good hero leader controls people? Black Canary's not a controlling person either.
Hold on a second. What I'm trying to do is point out a difference. Okay.
Okay, and I'm just trying to tell you that fundamentally, this man is the ultimate leader in the DC universe.
He is a leader. I'm not saying he's not a leader.
He's the ultimate leader in the DC universe.
Okay, I'll give you that, but I'm saying when you look at what the villain side sees in their leaders, what the hero side sees in their leaders. Okay, we're seeing that prime example with these guys. They're all coming together. We have this trinity that they're forming.
Okay.
Now, when Clark, Wonder Woman, and Batman get together, who's the leader of that group?
Clark.
Always? Does he jump forward and say, of those two, I'm not talking to everybody else. If it's just the three of them, is he the one who jumps forward and says, I am in command, do what I say?
Arguably, when it's the three of them, I'll correct myself on that. Arguably, when it's the three of them are equally leaders.
Right.
They divert to their own
That's
counsel.
what I mean by reluctant leader. When it's those three. We all see him as the leader. Even they will see him as a leader from time. But he doesn't.
Then you're saying all three are reluctant leaders then?
Yes and no.
When they're together. Well, then
see, here's the thing. Clark, hold on. Just let me finish. Give me a minute. I
completely disagree with you.
Clark arguably is the most powerful of the three of them. We could go
Even
around.
in this book, they say they all defer to him.
Right. But it's not something that he wants,
You don't, but
that's
see,
the thing. That's the
fundamentally
difference.
disagree
But
with
that's
you.
what I'm
You
saying. The
assume
difference
that
between the
leadership-
heroes. That's the difference between the heroes and the villains. The villains are sitting there, and immediately, as soon as they got together, they were fighting for their position. Even Despero came in there saying,
But that's not
"I am the most
leadership.
powerful. I should be the leader."
That's not
no, it's not
leadership.
leadership. It's
That's
distorted.
ego.
It's distorted,
That's
evil
ego,
version
not
of leadership.
No, that's
but that's
ego.
the difference.
That's ego. Ego does not imply leadership.
I'm not.
Ego means the things that you're doing are for the good of yourself, not for the good of everyone. A good leader is not just out for the good. Superman's out for the good of everybody. I disagree with you. He's the ultimate leader. Ultimate leader. Wait,
hold on. I'm not talking about leadership.
Yes, you are talking about.
Really,
you
I'm not.
You got just saying he's a reluctant leader.
Right, and I probably should have not used the word leader. I should have said
he's a reluctant
figurehead, reluctant.
He's not, though.
But he is.
He is not.
When you're dealing with the Trinity, he is.
His whole
he
reason
thinks of. Hold on. He thinks of the Trinity as. He thinks of the Trinity as. Hold on. He thinks of the Trinity as all equals.
Right.
Okay. That's why he's the reluctant.
Why can't there be three leaders? Wait, and you don't think Batman thinks of the Trinity as all equals? Wonder Woman doesn't think of the Trinity as all equal.
Right.
Black Canary does. Are you saying she's a reluctant leader? Black Canary thinks of the Trinities as all equal, and she defers to them. And she deferred to them in this.
Hold on. Just throw out the other heroes. We're talking just Trinity. I'm comparing evil Trinity and good Trinity. For the point of my discussion and my argument, I'm not talking about
Trinity
everybody.
Isn't good leaders.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. No, what I'm trying to say. But you're saying.
That's what I've been trying to say since the beginning.
I'm specifically arguing with the issue that you're saying Superman's a reluctant leader, and I disagree with you.
Of the Trinity, he is. I don't think he sees himself as being a leader over Wonder Woman and Batman.
And neither do Wonder Woman or Batman.
But here's the thing. Everybody else...
They all defer to him.
Everybody else defers and sees Superman as the leader. But Superman does not see himself as the leader of the Trinity, but everybody else does.
That doesn't mean that he's reluctant.
That's how I construe reluctant to be.
No, that just means that he sees them as equals. That doesn't mean that he doesn't see himself as a leader.
Okay, maybe I chose the wrong choice of words when I said reluctant.
If you see three people, if you see people as equals, you still see yourself as a leader. It's just all three of you are equal as leaders. They see themselves as the equal responsibility of the DC Universe. They are the ones to set the example for this other generation. The whole reason why with Black Canary they're stepping aside, but they're all sitting there watching her, is because they know that they need to step in, and they do. You're wrong. You're so
much for a quick discussion. We're on 15 minutes, and we're still on page 1 of the comic. Outstanding. And how because I chose the wrong choice of words. I did poor choice of words on my part.
But you just got done saying it's because of the fact that he doesn't want to lead. And that's not true.
But
it isn't true.
Poor choice of words on my part.
Okay.
Okay, disregard what I said about reluctant leader.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
The evil Trinity, good Trinity. Okay. Good Trinity.
Good Trinity.
Each member thinks of themselves all as equals.
Okay, fine.
But the rest of the world...
Which makes them stronger leaders.
Right. But the rest of the world sees Superman as the leader.
Except when all three of them came down, they made the comment about... even the evil Trinity made the comment about
I'm not talking heroes. I'm talking like people in general.
I'm talking about the villains. When they were looking at them, said, look how everyone defers to them.
Yeah. But even they said, even though there is still some deferment to Superman.
Arguably, it would be because, and here's the reason why people would defer to Superman, naturally, because he is the most accessible out of the batch. When you think about it. When the Trinity actually have the discussion about themselves, they talk about how Wonder Woman stands off a little bit, okay? And she even is shocked by that. Batman, obviously, for obvious reasons, his whole M.O. would mean that for the general public, he wouldn't be considered as a leader for the general public. And I agree with you. As far as general people go, they would definitely defer to Superman.
Okay, now, evil Trinity side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They sit there, whether they all think of themselves as equals, they don't. Mm-hmm. They think each one of them thinks they should be the leader.
Right.
And each one will argue that they should be the leader. And they'll fight for it. That is the fundamental difference between the two of them. Between these two teams. And we even see further of that with the Sparrow as he's coming out saying, hey, I have the cosmic egg. Right. I have all this power. I'm in charge. You know, and they even argue with him. And they all argue with him, no, we have to be equal. They're equal, we have to be equal.
Which is why villain groups ultimately fall apart, is because nobody can defer to anybody.
Right. That was my whole point I wanted to make. And poor choice of words when I said reluctant leader, so...
But the only one you said was a reluctant leader was Superman.
Right. I didn't mean it that... I didn't mean it that way. Okay.
But you were even arguing the point.
Well, then I was trying to get back on track, and I kind of lost my argument mid-argument, so then I had to stop because I was laughing.
Because you were going beyond just the reluctant part. You were talking about how he doesn't want to lead. And I'm like, well, no, his whole MO has been,
I never meant to say he didn't want to be a leader.
Pa drove him to be a leader.
Hold on. I never meant that he didn't want to be. He wants to be the shining example to people. Mm-hmm. I know that, and I admit that. I'm not. That's why when I started getting, I saw myself getting at a tailspin.
But you're saying it's one word choice, and it really wasn't. Your whole argument went far beyond the one word choice. So
it was one bad choice of words, which led to another bad word, another.
Okay,
multiple strings.
I'm just making a point that there was an argument here. Oh, yeah. It wasn't just one word.
And the argument, and I admit the argument was faulty, but I was like trying to make you realize what I was trying to say, and so I'm trying to think, and then I was playing off of your argument.
About the evil Trinity, I totally agree with you.
Okay, that was my whole argument that I wanted to make.
Okay.
That was the whole comment I wanted to make.
And none of them are
15 minutes ago.
Point of clarification, none of them are reluctant leaders.
Okay. Let's just move on. Stately Wayne Manor sequencing. We talked about how cool the Trinity is.
I want Batman Family drawn by Mark Bagley.
Oh yes, big time. Because
this is to me, this is after Trinity. That's where he needs to go. New Batman title, Batman Family, drawn by. Look at this now, right here. They better find a way for Bruce Wayne to be Batman post R.I.P.
I know. And
I love Wayne Manor.
Yeah, and just the interaction between Tim and Dick.
Oh yeah.
The whole supermodels, on the hunt for Bruce, and there's the Wayne son. Ooh, there's the other one, and see.
Of course, wait. how are you going to sit there and, remember, Bruce Wayne, he's flashy and charming, and it's the billionaire playboy and all that stuff. How are you going to get to Bruce? A lot of times, make
fun with the kids. Oh yeah, right. Hey, if you get the kids liking you, hey, you can swoop in for the billionaire. And I like the fact that they both Tim and Dick realize what they're doing immediately because they're not idiots.
Oh, it's the other one, the older one.
Yeah, I'm surprised none of them made a play for him as well because you figured he's got to have some money as well because he's what the heck, go for that as well.
But also they got to be looking at this. Arguably, if you're looking to marry somebody or to have a future with somebody, you're going to the fact, what is the life of potential children going to be? I think it's a natural reaction. I would look at the same thing when I'm looking at a female. Right? It's like, what does our future look like? And that type of thing together. And obviously, this would be a nice life to have kids in. I do the bits with Alfred here and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's this
such horrors, sir. It must be enduring. It must be sheer.
Yeah, flirting with beautiful women, wallowing in their attention. I'm tongue-tied right now. But yeah, it's more just coolness of Alfred, and just one of the things that I'm digging about Trinity is we see these other characters and these other stuff.
I wonder how hard it must be because it's characterizations of so many characters within a book like this. He's got, in this one, we've seen Tim and Dick, Alfred, Bruce, Oracle. All of them are dead on. And current to current status quo.
And we saw earlier with the JLA how current dead on he was. With the Flash family, how dead on he was. This is just some really good research on, Busick's part, just to create the character how we want to see it. How when we read the regular comic, this is the character we're seeing.
And
we could pluck this at any time. Yeah.
The art team on both stories, because on both the front and the back stories, in both of those cases, we're really seeing some dead-on characterizations visually and in the dialogue. I'm just so impressed with this series because obviously this takes place right before the events currently going on in Action Comics, Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
it feels to me like this is right before the things that we're seeing right now.
This is before everything, yeah.
Yeah, and I like that. It's a fun story because of that. His Superman is really cool.
Yeah, and once again, I like the characterization of Superman. You see some cool fight sequences where he's beating up a giant robot, and it furthers on the story when you see that's it leads to some techno beacon that's dimensional anchor, but it's also just seeing Clark, with the people, flooding around him wanting his autograph and whatnot. And Clark is just, is aware that some of them are afraid of him. Some are in awe, but some are afraid of him because of he is, this unknown. It's this super powered, and there are people who are going to be standoffish. They're going to be like, "Hey, Superman, sign this." Can you sign? Oh, cool. Hey, can I get a picture? Oh, yeah. It's that whole nature of him. And who is the awe of Superman. So I was like, yeah, you have a little bit more about the Trinity, a little bit more on the story arc, some cool sequences with some cool fight sequences and action sequence with Superman.
His dialogue here works for me, though, because I understand, of course, it's become a more worrisome world. Why is it the people who are scared who feel wrong to me? Why do I feel like things should be different, like I should be different? The interesting part about all this is he's constantly worried about the whole world. He's taken that responsibility on his shoulders. And it's one of the things that I like about Superman is scope and scale-wise, it's very big. It's a very epic, it's not just Metropolis. Yeah, Metropolis is home base and, a lot of his interactions happen there. But he does feel responsible for the whole world and what's going on there. He constantly thinks about how his actions affect the whole world and how he's viewed by the whole world. That's got to be an incredible responsibility to be. I would rather be more of a Batman-like character because in the sense that Batman's concerned with Gotham, and yes, he gets involved with the JLA and he does these bigger scope things, but as far as the scope of what he does, he's concerned with affecting change in his city on more of a targeted level. That's really his main focus. We've seen it so many times. He's with these people and helps them out because they are friends, and that's what has driven him to this. And I think ultimately he does realize that the change they make as a group together will help not only the world but his city. So I think that his motivations are driven differently. He's a leader in his own way. It's just he's more targeted.
Yeah, but it's also, though, he's starting to feel something's not right. And all of the Trinity are starting to feel something's not right, which eventually slowly pans out another really cool story element that they did when they explain what this uneasiness is in a couple issues. So I was like, they started to, just feeding the thread right now. And by the time eventually when they reveal it, you already know what's going on, but you're like, yeah, oh, that's cool. They first mentioned it back in. So it was another nice, cool story element. Now, continuing on with just more of the personalization of the Trinity, Wonder Woman has been standout one of my favorite characters that they've done in this. And just showing her shopping with Edna Cadney, was another cool moment because, this isn't something I would imagine Wonder Woman doing, but she's right now Diana Prince. She's the human, and this is Edda kind of showing her what, regular girls do. They go shopping. They dish on, the guys in their lives. Which
is why she adopted the identity to begin with, which is what works about this so well. I'm with you. This is awesome.
Yeah, and it's just, it's what, Wonder Woman, what Diana wants. She wants that connection to humanity. She wants that, personal relationship with them because she knows that people see her as a little standoffish. She sees them a little bit aloof. And I love when, it was Edda who basically, laid it out for her that, hey, people see Wonder Woman as this powerful and idealistic like Superman. She's also a warrior, not a buddy. She's here to protect the world and change it, but change scares people.
You know what, though?
And I like the fact that it was her friend telling her, hey, this is kind of how you're going. And, Diana's like, yeah, wow.
But we are seeing her in her own book, and that's what I like about this segment. I'm going to correct something I was saying. I think the Wonder Woman segments could be happening concurrently with what's going on in her own book.
Yeah.
Because it fits right now, because we are seeing Wonder Woman going down to the personal level. In the most recent issue, we just saw it.
Yeah.
Where she takes it down to that level where it isn't her up here anymore. She's become accessible, and she's become an agent of change on the one-on-one level as well. And I really like that about her. So it's an interesting exploration. I think this Wonder Woman is dead on to what Gail Simone's doing right now in her book.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Big time. And it's, once again, more kudos to the writing team that you're creating this neat Wonder Woman that's right along with the cool stuff Gail Simone's doing. So, hoorah for Trinity.
This is funny. I think with Countdown, how it was described as originally, and they totally got away from this very early on in Countdown. But it was originally described as being the backbone of the DC universe, or, the spine of the universe, whatever. Trinity could be considered that.
Yeah. But Trinity is
not in the sense that it's the central series that everything's spinning off of, because I think that's a mistake to do anyway. I think it's the spine in the sense that it's taking all the characters, and from this, I think anybody could jump off of this book onto the solo titles of any of these characters, onto the team books that any of these characters are in, and feel like they're reading the same characters. That, to me, makes it a spine of the universe book. In the sense that you could use this. This is, if somebody were to say to me, hey, I've never read DC before, I would hand them this book.
Yeah.
Trinity is your launching point into the DC universe.
Yeah, it's a great view of who these characters are.
Everybody. Yeah. It's kind of a taste of everybody. And it's really nice. It's really well written. Like, somebody would say, hey, you say you're enjoying Wonder Woman. Why? Here, read this and read her solo book.
Yeah.
You're going to get a whole Wonder Woman spectrum in this. This is really great. Same thing with Batman. I'd love to see this continue.
Yeah. And I agree. I'd like to see
Trinity 2.
Yeah, Trinity 2. I'd buy Trinity 2 in a heartbeat. But I don't know. I'd kind of like to see them do this same type of style with other heroes.
3 other heroes?
Either 3 other heroes or 2 other heroes or maybe 4 other heroes.
Yeah. Okay.
A couple other heroes.
Well, that's what worked with 52.
Right. Just a couple other people, just do them and see, probably be, personally, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'd like to see return of the hard traveling heroes. Green Arrow and Green Lantern. I think they would make a cool Trinity-style weekly story where they're going around and they're interacting with other heroes, different story arcs. It's an overall story, but different pieces are dealing with other people. I'd pick that up in a heartbeat. I don't know if anybody else would, but I would.
But I guess, you know what, here's the funny part. I guess if you continued this, why couldn't you have a subplot involving the hard-traveling heroes as the second story?
Right.
And still do this and have that intersect on some level, because it's a big See, I guess that's kind of where I'm like, this is pretty much so perfect on what a weekly book should be.
Yeah. The only reason why I don't say another Trinity is because they're building these villains for them. They're building the thing. They would have to rebuild the new villain series, for them to face the new challenge. What would be the challenge they would have to face? Because if you're going up against the Trinity, man, you got to deal with some epic villain, epic power.
And why can't you?
But I'm like, do you want to rebuild another epic power that they got to face? That's what I was thinking. If you do other heroes, you could do.
Could you do smaller arcs?
Yeah, you could do smaller arcs, but then you run the risk of it being rushed.
Why would it be rushed?
Well, that's one of the things we're saying. How we love this build of these evil Trinity, and it's because it's spread out. We still don't know their we still don't know. We know their ultimate goal, but we don't see exactly how they're doing
I guess
it yet.
We're talking about a different thing. I'm talking about an ongoing weekly after this, where the story drives how long the arc is. I'm not talking about another 52-week book.
Oh, okay.
I guess I'm talking about, like, after this, just do an ongoing weekly involving the Trinity.
Okay.
This could continue after this.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Is what I'm saying. I guess I'm saying, I'm not explaining what I'm saying well. I'm not talking about a repeat, another 52-week book, necessarily.
You're talking an ongoing. Now, would it be an ongoing weekly or an ongoing monthly?
Ongoing weekly.
Okay.
Where, like, the second story could be an arc that intersects with the main arc. It could also be what you're saying, hey, that's where you do a hard-traveling heroes arc. Or that could be, a whole other arc in the background, and maybe it does, in its own way, intersect with the main story. Maybe it doesn't. Open up and I mean, I know we're going a little bit away from this then, but why can't we? That's where stories like that you're saying people wouldn't buy. Would people buy that? Well, they'd buy this.
Yeah. I don't know.
This gives some freedom for people to introduce ideas and concepts, and you've got the big three as your main story. You can have it intersect with that. I don't know. I'm just throwing out an idea. I'm a big fan of the weekly thing, so I'm like, maybe we don't need to do another 52-week one afterwards. Maybe we just do an ongoing. That could have a 52-week arc if there's a reason. Where you've got a lot of flexibility to let the stories drive how long the arcs are. So, I don't know. That's what I'm kind of more looking at. So then you've got the opportunity to say, okay, with this, Trinity 2, whatever you want to call it.
Right, yeah, I don't, yeah.
For the, I have a great 8-issue arc. Let's do that. Then somebody comes up and says, I've got a 30-week arc. And we can tie it in with the back, and, we got this really great, big, epic scope story we could do for 30 weeks. Then you do that. Then you do another few short, whatever the stories kind of generate the arc.
I know I would buy that, and I know there's a lot of people out there who would probably buy it, but I don't know if they'd want to take the risk of an ongoing weekly. Because,
we've been doing an ongoing weekly.
Yeah, but it's still, hold on,
this.
But it's still the mindset that it's a limited.
Uh-huh.
I think they'd be afraid because if
and ongoing weeklies have typically tanked after a certain amount of time,
right? And they would be intimidated. Where if they think it's a limited series, they know it's going to have a beginning, build, end. Or if it's an ongoing, it won't have an ending. Right. It won't have that big payout, and that's what people want. People want the big payout. Part of the reason I think some people were complaining about Countdown was they never felt they had the really big payout. They never had the cool, epic. And, it was Countdown the Final Crisis. Then when Final Crisis came out, there was some confusion as to connections and tie-ins and whatnot. Whereas if you say you're going to run an ongoing weekly, people say, okay, it'll just be an ongoing story. I want the big moment. I want to see the Trinity rise up and the Trinity kick the evil Trinity's butt and say, hoorah, this is who we are.
We're doing such a good job with our shorter look at this.
Yes, I know. We're at 30-some minutes, and we haven't even completely finished the first issue.
It's an interesting debate, though, because I think you can't help but talk about the weekly and, where do you go from here? Because this is so good. This to me is the end result of everything we've seen before. The good parts, the mistakes, everything like that. It's all come to this particular thing, and it's kudos to the creative team that I just don't want it to end. And I'm saying that right now. I'm loving 19 issues in. I'm loving this.
Hey, kudos to the creative team. Kudos to the editorial team because they got to have, they got to have a strong hand as well in what is being produced and what's going out. So this is what I want from a weekly series. This is what I want from this. So I hope God, they have another one because, and it's this, they remember this format and they redo this format. Different heroes, different, struggles and whatnot, but the same type of style. This is a cool style. I'm enjoying this a lot more than I did 52, and I love 52, and I'm definitely enjoying it more than Countdown.
I do like this ending here where we start seeing Diana and Bruce both, with the inner dialogue, just like we saw with Clark. This is how they see us. Protection, retribution, a harbinger of social chains. It makes sense. It's perfectly logical, but something feels off. Again, like you're saying, this is where they're noticing it. Something about us, about the Trinity, there's something going on, something I can't quite. And then Bruce is just continuing with that. Oracle's on it, Hawkman's on it, the League's in good hands, but I should be working. I should be... And they don't...
They can't make the final click.
Right.
Even Soup had that. It's that final, what's going on here? And, the first part ends with, Bruce rejoining the party in his Playboy, routine, but it's disrupted by this wolf pack attacking him, and they have a brand for him to be branded. So you're like, oh, great way to end the issue with a nice little cliffhanger. What's going to happen to Bruce now?
On the second half of the story, Dreams of Power, Kurt Busiek and Fabian Nicieza are the storytellers. Scott McDaniel and Andy Owens are the artists. Alan Pasalacqua on colors. Ken Lopez on letters. Elizabeth V. Gerlin, assistant editor, and Mike Carlin is the editor.
Yeah, this was another... I really dig in this, how it's the other part of the story. It's... we keep calling it I keep calling it the whatnot portion, the second act. It's a full story in itself, so it's not like the backup.
Every time we do the second part.
Yes. But it opened up with a little bit of confusing panels for me. Because I had no idea who these people were, how they tied into it, but by the end of it, we knew exactly what was going on. And I liked that, in that it's another piece of the puzzle, another, link in the chain, if you will. And really cool stuff, because we're seeing, the tattooed dude, saying some type of magic incantation, the monkey reading a romance novel who ends up being one of my favorite characters going forward. Primate is just a really cool character that I want to see more of her when this series is done. I don't want her to be a red shirt. I'm hoping she survives.
You want to see All-Star Primate?
I want to see All-Star Primate. I'd like to see her, maybe she could hang out with Wonder Woman and the Gorillas. She could fit in the Bat universe.
No, she can't. No to either of those.
Oh, come on. She'd be awesome. I love that character.
I would buy All-Star Primate just so that doesn't happen.
You can. Heck, she
I
should
like
be.
her. No, I'm not saying that I don't want to see her again.
Teen Titans. She should be in the Teen Titans.
Only so McKeever can kill her with Wonder Dog.
Come on, she's an awesome character. She
is an awesome character, but I think there's this, she fits in this. I will agree with you, she's wonderful here.
Yes, she's absolutely wonderful. And there's so many sequences later on where I'm like, yes! But,
You're a sick man.
What? I'm not a sick man. I think she's a cool character. I like talking monkeys. What can I say? It's, they're interesting characters.
Yeah.
Especially, one with this your romance, head in the clouds type of attitude. It's just, she's cool. As the evil Trinity starts working on the egg, this gets us a little bit more, they're going into it, experimenting, trying to figure out what they're going to use it for. It's going to be their harbinger. It's going to bring out their super-powered minions, which is where our opening sequence of, people come into play. But we also see Tarot, and I really liked how they're tricking her. Morgan's casting the spell, and they're using her to, just to do her readings, but she doesn't realize she's doing the readings for them. She thinks she's just doing a regular reading, but no, it's the villains are using this information. They've kind of taken advantage of her. She's tapped into some mystic power, and they know that. And I love that about her because it was a cool usage of this character. They introduced her, showed her power, they snatched it up. Now we see what their plans are for her. They're not, at first, I didn't know if maybe they're going to steal her power or whatnot. No. they're going to use her. And that's, once again, showing a villain team that is thinking and planning. They have this long-running strategy they got going on, and, every little piece of the puzzle they're getting and they're taking care of. And I was like, yes, that's kind of neat.
And I totally agree with you on the strategy here. That is one of the neat things about them, is that they've got a step-by-step plan that they need to put into place. It's a targeted assault. And that's why they're watching everything and everyone in the DC universe. And that's what I love about their monitors. They are making sure that the players are in place where they need them to be, and they're striking when they're ready. And that's what I really like about it, because it definitely, they're looking at what Nightwing's doing, what Hawkman's doing, what Sergeant Steele's doing, because each of these characters in some way are in places that are tied into these characters that they need to get artifacts from.
And I kind of like how the museum thefts are really more or less diversions to the heroes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need some items of power, but in truth, these are more just to get the heroes jumping and thinking about museum thefts. They're not thinking about the other thefts they're doing that they're going to use later on. And I got to say, there was the one little funny line that Enigma had. He's like, when they were getting ready to start the experiment on the egg, he's like, okay, ready to poach the egg. I chuckled when I read it, and I had to comment on it. Okay, so it's not a funny joke.
Well, I was smiling. I don't know. You want to wall up. Oh, stop! Stop! Oh, Jim. There, you feel better now?
You're an ass. And you're number one, pal, right here.
I smiled, dude. I wasn't one of those jokes. I wasn't saying it wasn't bad. It was a smile one. Okay. I don't know. It was charming. But hey, you know what? Now you have it both ways. Okay.
Okay, on to Trinity issue number 9. Same creative team. And issue, and once again, I like the fact that it opens with a boom explosion and it just kind of kicks it into action. Yeah. And we're seeing the Diana and Edna dealing with the disaster, like my joke, and in the middle of the confusion and whatnot.
I'm getting a lot of mileage out of it now. I'm loving it.
In the middle of the confusion, we do get the introduction of the swashbuckler. And I do like this character. He's another villain that I hope survives this, because there is a nice little style to the guy.
It reminds me of what I liked about Bagley drawing Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The way that he carries himself and everything. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
And it works so well.
Swoops in, and yeah.
Just one little comment I want to make where I totally agree with you. Wonder Woman is just, every time I see her, there's something about the way she's drawn, the way she carries herself. It's everything that I'm liking about the character right now. It's just, I can't agree with you more. Yeah, what do you think of Etta? I don't, we haven't talked too much about this. Etta's redesign, so to speak. It's the same Etta Candy, but I mean, not in this book. I'm just saying in general. Etta's taken an interesting change in how she's drawn.
I think we've talked about her before.
No, but I'm just saying, I mean,
I'm loving this Etta Candy. This is an Etta Candy that I dig. Just her layout. I could see this character, this person, as the military officer with the decorated history. The little glimpses I had of her before, I couldn't see that person as
Do you think
that
the
officer.
Redesign has to do with the fact that she's more of a field operative now?
Yeah, she's more of a field operative. She's more assertive. She's a stronger character. She is her own person.
See,
and
I'm a fan of the previous version of Etta Candy, so I mean, it's not, for me, I guess I didn't see this isn't a bad thing, but I didn't see that she had to be changed, because I guess you and I were very different in how we viewed her. You didn't like her at all, and I loved her.
Well, here's the thing. The Etta Candy I saw before was a desk jockey.
Okay.
And I guess that would fit the character that they were trying to play her as.
Yes.
I like Etta Candy field operative. If they had brought desk jockey in for this character in this role, it wouldn't fit.
And instead of creating a new character for the field operative, you use somebody from classic Wonder Woman mythos, like Etta Candy, but then modify her a little bit so she fits into what they're trying to do with her now. Okay, it works. I mean, it does. I guess it's just kind of interesting
Yeah, and throughout this is just the explosion. Wonder Woman rushes off, and even later when they're in the Bureau of Metahuman Affairs, you see her as Diana Prince, just dealing with everything, and it's once again more cool Wonder Woman stuff.
Do these guys not know that he's Bruce Wayne?
Oh God, no. Yeah, the Wolfpack. No, they know. The Wolfpack knows he's Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Because, when they go after him, he even takes off and runs in the woods and he's running away. No, he's regrouping. And, he had to have spare costumes. He had to have spare utility belts. He was prepared because he's Bruce Wayne, and I like that we see that in him. On Wayne Manor, in Wayne Manor, spread throughout the house, spread throughout the grounds are extra equipment. Yeah, it was a hidden fake tree. Yeah. And in Gotham, he has these type of things. Right. They're hidden things that he needs because preparation is the key.
And he can't fly, unlike the other two, he can't fly or change on the dime. So it's interesting. I guess here's my only issue on this. Wouldn't Morgan Le Fay and Despero be watching this? Don't they know now he's Bruce Wayne?
They know. Okay. All the evil Trinity knows their secrets because they've been watching him since day one.
Right. So as long as they don't so his identity isn't as secret as
he thinks. Right. There's a lot of villain groups out there who know who he is.
Right.
And those three
actually that adds a little reality to it too, though. So
and those three aren't going to share with Joker or the rest of the villain community because why would they? They have privileged knowledge. They're not just going to give that out because
unless there was a reason that would be to their advantage.
Right, but right now there's not.
Right. Okay. No, that actually fits. That's a very good explanation.
Now, Diana and Edda in the Bureau of Metahuman Affairs. I like the look of shock on Diana's face when they show her on the monitor who is behind the abductions. We don't get to see it yet. We see it later, but when it's first the initial thing, it's like, Great Hera. That look of, oh my God, we got a problem here. And I like that. It was that human side of her. It wasn't just the warrior. It was her recognizing this is a problem. This is something beyond what we thought it was. This is something that we need to, to deal with immediately.
I eat this up when you talk about her. Because just, that's what I get out of Wonder Woman comics too. And just out of the Trinity in general. When they're well written, all three of them. You get those moments where you just kind of connect with them and just kind of yeah, this is just cool. Yeah. Every panel is cool.
And I can say, I'm loving the characterization of all the characters, but Wonder Woman is really the one that's getting to me. I think it's because I am on such a Wonder Woman high that and this one connects so well with what Gail's doing that it's. I'm like, because the Batman's awesome, the Superman's awesome.
8 and 9,
but
you know what though, 8 and 9, I've got to say, Batman really. Once you saw Wayne Manor and we got to see a little bit more, I think it's when we see these characters. Like I loved Diana and Edda shopping. It's such a simple little thing, but yet it showed a different side to her that I think does fit right into her book. But the same thing we see Wayne Manor with the whole Bat family there and seeing Tim and Dick at the party and Alfred and the interactions with Bruce. I think that works for me too. And Clark and Lois work for me as well. I think you're right. I'm very Wonder Woman happy at the moment too, so she's standing out for me more because just in general my focus on her is. But I gotta say in general, I think all of the Trinity have that kind of hoorah thing going on. To steal one from you.
Oh yeah. You can borrow it. You can't steal it. It's still mine. But as Bruce continues dealing with the werewolves, I love seeing the detective in him because he first throws silver nitrate at him, make sure they're not werewolves. Then he's doing he's going through the different stuff. He's studying his enemy, knowing what's going on, and he pretty much has him where he wants him when Superman swoops in for the save. Questionable save. Bat probably could have taken him, but it was good to see him swoop in, recognize, okay, there is something more going on here. We need to deal with this. So it is once again kind of a coming together of the Trinity, a uniting of forces. And it's, I don't know, it's just something I like seeing them work together.
But I love how Batman, though, can't handle the fact that Clark, just kind of takes him out with ease. And he has to, as long as you've interfered, make yourself useful. Secure them, get them to the cave. You'll be along shortly. Again, right away, Superman kind of comes in and kind of takes over. He's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, being a superhero teamed up with Superman? That would be very hard because he would be such a presence that would just take over the situation. People would be in awe of him naturally, I think.
And, he would be... I wonder if Superman would be, hesitant to act if someone wasn't in danger. Like, say, for example, he and I are fighting some bad guys. He takes out the first 20, I take out the first. Would he let me take out my one, or would he also take out the one? I don't know. If I had
he let Batman take out the one behind him.
Right.
He could have easily done that according to his speed.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No.
I love this bit with Alfred.
Oh, yeah.
Mainly just because it just shows the importance of Alfred. A lot of weird stuff goes on around Batman, and especially around Wayne Manor because of Batman. So Alfred would need to be there for damage control, constant damage control, especially in a day and age where of your, the YouTube that was a TMZ, I think is the other stuff that's done, all that stuff, and True Hollywood Stories, all that kind of stuff. Bruce Wayne is in the public eye. He's your Bill Gates of the DC universe. People are going to wonder what's Bruce, Paris Hilton, all that stuff. He is all those things rolled into one because he's controversial. People would be keeping an eye on him. What's Party Boy Bruce doing now, right?
Yeah.
Well, Alfred would need to be there to
make sure they cover it
stories.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the wolf pack, it was a pack of wild dogs. Master Bruce is being treated right now, but he's asked the party to continue. Hors d'oeuvres and drinks are on the way. Here you go. Yeah, here, party it up. It's, a little bit of diversion, nothing really. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain type of deal. And then just continue on right from there. We see the continuation of the Bat family. And I love the fact that they didn't forget that Tim and Dick were at the party. Because in the cave we have Robin and Nightwing. They're going through the, discussing about the branding disc that tried to brand Batman. They're looking through it. They're researching it. They got, the full crew going. Oracle's in on it. It's, everybody's looking into this. It's not, something forgotten.
I thought you were going to be lightening up a little these days, Bruce. This is me lightened up.
Plus, I did like how they identified the branding disc as, referenced in Merlin's Eternity book. Maybe Arthurian magic, possibly older. Nice little clue to lead them to Morgan Le Fay. I saw that. I was immediate when I was reading. I was like, oh, cool. Here's the pieces of the puzzle that they'll start putting together. Now, more cool inner dialogue from Clark because they're commenting on how it was the wolf pack and Bruce had faced them before, but he had forgotten. And it's not like Bruce to forget, someone he faced in the past. And plus Clark started feeling, the rage that drives him. It's kind of like started eating him at his gut. This Trinity business, could it possibly be, once again, just that they're starting to put the pieces together. They're starting to see what's going on. Another more just little clues as to, the tie-in. But, we find out, what Wonder Woman saw. And really cool, nice little ending that it's the crime syndicate behind all these abductions. And you see why Wonder Woman had that reaction. You have the crime syndicate coming from the anti-Earth, snatching people up. What are they doing? What's going on? And immediately they got to be asking themselves, hey, have they been behind everything? Is this all a crime syndicate plot? Or is this just something else that we're getting hit with? What the heck's going on? I love that.
And this is, pacing-wise, a good time for the crime syndicate because we're 9 issues in at this point. And you really needed to bring in some major supervillains at this point that people know.
Yeah.
Because, we've got this Trinity that keeps watching them, but how long are we going to have them watching them, pulling, we needed something else going on. That's one thing that's been great about this creative team. Good pacing. Right now, we need this big crime syndicate mini arc that's going through this thing. And I love that. Yeah. And the bit with that candy.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah. And it was funny because when he first Swashbuckler first swoops in and steals a kiss from her, I'm like, did he just do the bump and grab? Did he, because that's a classic pickpocket move where you bump into somebody and then you lift their wallet or you lift whatever you want. And he did. That's what he did. And when he swiped up her security ID card. And I was like, oh, nice. What do they need that for?
And it's actually missing.
Yeah.
Her ID card's here in the first picture when he lands.
Yeah.
And then when you flash back to her and she's grabbing her pager, it's missing from the purse.
Yeah.
Nice attention to detail.
Yeah.
Nice attention to detail. I didn't notice that the first time through, but it actually is missing from the purse right after that sequence.
Oh, cool. With the second act, it was once again seeing cool organization of the Bat family. Oracle is running through the team. She's their central focus point, which it would make sense. They need coordinated communication. You have Nightwing and Huntress are reviewing the museums. The Outsiders are hitting the black market. Tim is keeping an eye on Mad Hatter, as he's the only Bat villain who hasn't been used for a crime yet. Nightwing has that beautiful run-in with Swashbuckler. And once again...
You know what? Scott McDaniel had a really nice run on Nightwing.
Yeah.
A tremendous run on Nightwing. And to see him just back on this character like this, especially in this Swashbuckler sequence where we see him with the acrobatics, just reminds me of just how cool that whole time was. Sorry, just kind of it's just one of those segments where I was just kind of like, ooh,
Yeah.
McDaniel really shines on Nightwing.
Oh, God, and just the action sequence when they're showing him fighting, because, goes and cuts his line, but Nightwing, rolls with the punches, and he's swinging across the air. He has no ability to fly. His line is cut. People would panic, not Nightwing. He's an acrobat. This is falling with grace is part of the act. He knows how to, roll with it, to twist his body, to flip it around and do whatnot to make him land safely. It was the thing I ate up.
What do you think about the Grayson series? Did you hear the Grayson
TV series?
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
We haven't really discussed it.
We haven't discussed it, and I'm going to I'm going to really hold off on judgment. Okay. Because on one hand, I think, it'd be kind of neat to see, but on the other hand, I don't want to see another version of Smallville, but with Robin. What I would like to see Grayson series be is the first season is Dick Grayson with his family, the Flying Graysons. First season ends with his family being killed. Second season is him in Wayne Manor. He doesn't know that Bruce is Batman yet, and it's him dealing with being thing. End of the second season, he finds out that Batman...
But they won't let there be a Bruce.
See, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. And then, showing him become Robin, him dealing with, the training to become Robin.
And why can we have a Smallville version of Clark and a film version of Clark, and we can't have a TV version of Bruce and a?
Yeah, I don't get that.
That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want more exposure for your character than less? Doesn't make any sense.
See, that's what I would want to see. Now, what we're going to actually get is Dick Grayson in the circus with his family, and.
I got no problem with that, but I agree with you.
I'm curious to see what it is. I want to see what it is, but I don't know if I was like a TV executive, I don't know if I would sign off on that because I don't know.
I would.
You would?
Yeah, because I just want to see somebody else. Let's get some more superhero stuff out there.
See, but here's the thing: it could be. If they're not going to get superhero stuff, if they're going to build, it's the building of who he becomes Robin.
He's going to have adventures of some sort, though.
Yeah, he'll have adventures of sorts, and it'll be, dealing with...
It's going to be like young Indiana Jones, but with Robin. In the sense that he's going to have little adventures, and that's probably not the best example, but where it's going to be like these pre-adventures that never were meant to happen, but like they'll kind of just feel like... I agree with you. It's going to be Smallville up, but again, when the Smallville,
I don't know. I got to see what's going to. I can't say yes or no until I actually see it because in my head I could find ways. I could find stories in my head that would be kind of cool. With him in like a little foreshadowing of him becoming Robin. Maybe seeing his his affection with a Robin, or not affection, but a connection with a Robin, like a little story behind it, like his father, like. In the Bat movie, when they introduced Batman and Robin, they said something with his father said he was like a Robin swooping in. I didn't mean that way. Give me a break,
his
dude.
Affection with a Robin,
Connection. You
said affection.
I did say affection, but I meant connection. But
you know what I would love on the first episode for a Robin to land on his shoulder? You know what I want the Robin to say?
Tweet, tweet, tweet.
Yes.
Come on, that was a given.
I'll buy that on Blu-ray for you. Because I wanted the sound to be crystal clear for you. So you could tweet.
Yeah.
Look at that affection for that Robin. I know what you meant. I'm only teasing. I really am.
But
I agree.
See, I don't know how much of those.
What was the connection for the name and all that stuff? And
how many of those can we actually see with Robin?
Right.
There
is. See, the problem is, I think they're doing like a teenage, though, aren't they? And how long are you going to be able to push that?
Yeah, because that's the thing. That's the cool thing with Smallville. They could grow up and they can get older. Actors
it'll lead
only
to where we're going right now.
Right, but if you want to keep him the teenage years when he becomes Robin, you're going to have a problem with an actor staying looking young. So yeah, it's one of those. I don't know what they're going to do.
Fairly interesting though, building on your Wayne Manor thing. What if we don't see Bruce because of the fact that he seems to work all night?
Yeah.
Sleeps during the day, or he's at the office. It's.
They could definitely do that. I would.
But we could have an Alfred.
We could have an Alfred. Yes, dude. And just them trying to keep the secret from, from Dick that he is Batman. You could see him dealing with, the death of his parents. Maybe young Dick Grayson sneaks out and tries to solve the murder of his family. Except
you got to have at some point Batman appear.
Right.
Even if it's just, a quick little thing.
Yeah.
You've got to.
Well, you could actually have a sequence where he is investigating and just somebody strikes from the shadows. You never really get a clear view of Batman taking out the bad guys.
But to see everything from Dick's perspective, you have to bring in at some point Wayne Manor and Batman.
Well, you can bring in Wayne Manor,
it's all going to be in Batman to a certain extent. Well, but I'm talking about ideally. I'm talking ideally, not for me. If I was going to sign off on that series and say, "What do you mean you're not going to bring in Batman?" Yes, you are. But we're going to see everything from Dick's perspective, so we're going to see Batman minimally. And to see this kid growing up in Wayne Manor right now, after 2 seasons, okay, you eventually lead to, first couple seasons, you really develop the family and the relationship, get people attached, then, bam.
You kill them off, yeah.
You do that and make it, oof, now what? And, maybe it's somewhere along the second season you introduce the Bruce Wayne concept into the whole thing. Like he's come to the show, which means it's coming. At some point, is it this episode? Is it the next one? We've seen him come with maybe the billionaire playboy coming with a couple different dates every time. It's the whole little thing. And what's his deal? And
when's he going to learn? When's he going to find the truth?
Right.
Yeah.
And that type of thing.
That would be an awesome show.
Yeah.
But
we got off on a tangent there. But it was all this talk about Dick Grayson. I'm like, we never really talked about that. I don't know. So I'm excited and tentatively though. And the Iceberg Lounge with the Penguin.
Oh yeah, and actually that's Robin with the trashing the Penguin Club and all that.
Well, I know, but right before there was that sequence with Jim Gordon.
Yeah, well, you have the the trans
that led to that
Volition man, TVM stealing the Gordon pipe. You kind of slip away. You have Robin, trashing the Penguin Club, trying to get information, and as all this is going down, you get word there's a riot in Arkham, and I like how that stops everything, because it's Arkham Asylum.
But it goes back to what you were saying before, that it's keeping everyone busy so the pipe can be stolen, so this can happen, so that can happen. All these things are happening, just like you said, for the purpose of distraction.
Yeah. Now, the thing I loved with the Arkham, I was initially thinking, okay, they were going to try to break everybody out, further distraction for the Trinity, make things, worse on them, but that wasn't the case. They were after to steal something. They were there to steal the Joker's laugh. And I thought that was just what the heck? The laugh? And it was one of those things where I was like, okay, we've seen them take the pipe, we've seen them take Edda's badge, Joker's laugh. What are they doing here? And
I'm sorry about your joke again, Jim.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Because you're not really scared. You're not really worried. You're just, faking it. But, I was looking at it and you're thinking it's got to be a spell of some type, but I didn't know what the spell was. Would it be this spell for the Ultimate Universe and all that and whatnot? But I liked the general play out of the spell. The general, the flow of it.
Something that would scare Joker. Jeez.
Yeah.
I would not want to be them, though, when the Joker gets his voice back.
Yeah, that's not going to be a good thing, because he's going to be a little peeved. He's going to be a little bit upset that you took away from him. Issue number 10. And I tell you, I was glad to see Lois is getting some love.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely cool sequence. You got something funky going on at Star Labs, 2 in the morning. Who are you going to call? You're going to call Lois Lane in there. Nobody else would get that story but her, because she is their star reporter. And definitely something freaky when you have bright lights, out of the one floor, and you're just like, okay, this ain't normal. This ain't just some simple lab accident. There's something going on in there. And it turns out it's one of those empowered people, sun chained in ink, one of the evil Trinity's henchmen. And I tell you, the dude opens up not only some serious power, but he's got a bit of an attitude. I am the center of your universe, and you orbit around me about my gravity, my heat, my light, almost unnoticed, while I am all. Okay, he's got some, megalomania issues there. But justifiably.
But he also reveals a little bit about what his power structure might be like in that rant, which I really liked, too. And I totally agree with you. Ditto.
Well, sun chained in ink, I would say he's a walking sun.
Right.
Which is what we see there.
But he then goes to describe
yeah.
that you orbit about me, about my gravity. And I love that. He just kind of clarifies it even further.
Now, back in the JLA satellite, they're confirming their fears about the crime syndicate is behind everything, and they even have a version of the evil metal men, the metal marauders, in custody. And I am willing to bet that plutonium is a part of that team. Going old school on that one.
That's why they lost.
What?
That's why they lost.
Hey, plutonium kicks butt, man. But
too bad he's under the bottom of this pile. It's nice to see the JLA again in this, because I really am glad that they didn't ignore the fact that this team is so integral to the Trinity.
But I tell you, one of the things that got me really cool was as they're starting to talk about this alternate Earth and the alternate, everything, we're seeing a different reaction from the Trinity. Batman, he's always been a strategist, he's always been a leader, but he's been a different type of leader. He's been the strategy. He's been the planner. And here, he kind of sticks out in the shadows while Superman's out front. But in this stuff, we see Batman is discussing their plan to rescue the hostages. And Superman lashes out with more violence. And, he wants to go in there and kick some syndicate butt. They've enslaved their worlds and they've got away with it. We have to stop them. We have to take them down. We just can't accept this. And you see this rage and this anger in Superman. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Why is Batman doing one style and Superman doing the other? Further complications going on with them, and it continues on with weird behavior because we got John has his doubts, and Bruce gives him that great pep talk. You can do this, John. We need you, your abilities specifically. I know you have the will to make it happen. I was like, dude, that was a Superman pep talk. Huh? And even John's
I ask who you are and what you've done with the real Batman. But I appreciate the trust and I take your point. And I love that.
It was just, and I'm like, oh my God,
but
this
Superman
is cool.
is now angry and enraged. He's the vengeance for the innocents. Very similar to how Batman, his innocence was taken away by, gunshots. In this case, Superman, is that rage. He's got that out for him. Very cool.
I know. I was digging that. And back, we see Lois dealing with Star Labs. It was a vial of Luthor blood that was stolen. But also, it was her little notepad, recorder device thingy that she had. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, we now have Joker's laugh, Luthor's blood, we have Gordon's pipe, Edda's badge, and now something from Lois. Kind of all starting to play out what exactly they're doing. I was like, we also get a cool little kind of backstory on what's going on in the antimatter Earth. And I like the fact that they put this in there so we know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. And you can tell it's not part of the evil Trinity. The Quarryards attacked Earth with Void Hunters and pretty much destroyed the planet. It's now a giant molten mess, and the captured people are being used as slaves to rebuild the anti-Earth. Now, I really dig this sequencing because as one of the guards goes to smack one of the people in the molten mess, you see the blue blur just zing by and catch him, and it's Superman for the save. But when he catches the guy, when he does the save, the guy's calls him Stellar Man at first. First indication that it's not just their Earth that they're taking from. They're taking from all over the place, which I was like, oh, that is a cool little twist.
I want to comment on this shot real quick where you see the whole league there, where you see Superman, Wonder Woman, Firestorm. You see on the Green Lantern ring, you see Red Arrow, Black Lightning, Flash, and Black Canary and Batman. What you're seeing here is, this reminds me of the best of when they had those multiple Earth crossovers.
Yeah.
You'd see the whole team kind of coming into this weird place that isn't our Earth. And growing up, the JLA, because every year you get one of these kind of crossover type of deals where you get something like this. And it's really cool to just see this right now and handled so well.
Yeah, and I tell you, that was a cool sequence because they're swooping in. Soup was on the rampage, which we saw before, but it's kind of once again more of the references to him. They're calling one called them. Hey, that's Apollo. No, that's the Authority. That's Hyperman. That's Captain Champion. It's all these different versions of Superman that are out there, different names, different Earths, and I dig that. And the ending for me was just a cool sequence because we had that cool hero swoop in moment, but we also have the cool villain swoop in moment. But the villains have a little ace in the hole. They have captured little Jimmy Olsen, the human, the one man,
the human, Little Jimmy Olsen, the human,
I'm getting tired. What can I say? I'm bumbling right now. I'm a babbling idiot. I'm a babbling idiot right now.
No, believe me, I'm a babbling idiot too. So I'm just teasing.
Okay.
I just thought it was funny. See, this just shows I'm listening to you.
Well, thank you for listening.
Flattered.
Of course, you could be a really nice friend and edit all that out, and so I wouldn't have to deal with that, but no.
Oh, but this is the funny stuff.
Oh, okay. I bring funny.
See, this is where you become the sympathetic person in the show, and I become the putz. So it's like... Because you really do. You get a lot of sympathetic rallying because of this
appreciate
kind of
that.
stuff.
I appreciate
you actually should be glad I don't edit this out.
So they got Jimmy Olsen, who's a great, victim / hostage /
And I love how this twist.
You just said like, Superman, help, Superman, and you're just like, I read it, I shook my head, I said, Olsen, what the heck's your problem, dude? And I loved where they went with this, and okay.
Maybe she doesn't like concrete.
You know what? I loved that one, and there was that's the title for the second part. And we have the same basic creative team, except they changed the associated editor to Rachel Gluckstern. But opening up with, once again, my baby Primate, I'm like, outstanding. She's fighting Gotham PD. She's her usual kind of romantic self, She's having a hard time figuring out why she is, and I'm having a hard time figuring out why she's one of the bad guys. Because you see her, doing this stuff, but she's not a bad person. She, is the romantic. She wants everybody to get along and not fight. Hey, can't we just be friends? Type stuff. And I just love that about her. And we later learn that, basically her motivation is she's been promised her heart's desire. And her being the romantic, she's not looking at exactly what she's doing. She doesn't realize that she's bringing about maybe the end of the universe by her actions. She's just, okay, well, I'm just gathering some stuff. It's okay. I'm not trying to hurt anybody because I'm a nice person.
And how realistic is that, though? A lot of times what we think, what our hearts desire, how many times do people go too far in the wrong direction because they are in love with somebody? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they have a desire. Forget about just somebody. You have a desire for something, and you don't think about the big picture. Like, what am I doing to get this? Mm-hmm. And people don't look outside their own little scope.
Yeah.
So it fits. She's an interesting character. I do see why you were like, this is a fun character.
When Robin and Nightwing showed up, I loved their banter back and forth with each other and with her. Because, they're throwing out little compliments to her. And she's, oh, thank you. And she's, like, trying to trash him, but she's not really trying to hurt him too badly. Because, she gives a nice compliment to Nightwing on his tight butt. And just the various, she's like a teenage schoolgirl in this powerful ape body.
Batman Family Monthly. Why is there not a Batman Family Monthly?
Yeah. Oh, God,
I want to read these two guys having adventures together monthly. Mm-hmm. Different mixes of bat-related characters monthly. That's what you do with your Batwoman, with your Question. If you're not going to do anything with him right now, Simon Dark. How are you going to get more people on Simon Dark? Have Simon Dark. He's in Gotham. Have him in there, too.
Yeah.
Little mini stories. Sorry. When I think about these two together and how well they're written in this, and how well they've been written in their own books when they popped in together. I want to see more of that. I really like Robin and Nightwing together.
Oh, God, yeah. And I like how throughout this fight sequence, they get some more clues as to something's going on here. Because she's sitting there telling them, hey, I've been promised my heart's desire by somebody who knows how to dream big. And right there, that's letting them know there is a central person behind this. Now, they knew there was probably a Mr. Big or a Mrs. Big behind it, but they're getting a little bit more clues on this. And as it's unfolding, it's, kind of getting there. And
this is funny. Master Tim, Master Dick, I've prepared a repast. Thanks, Alfred. Not those tiny cucumber sandwiches, I hope. And even a reticent thank you would have assuaged my wounded pride. I like those cuke-witches. But you wear spandex and fight crime. What do you know? It's just a funny little banter between the two, and that's what works.
And also, when they're in the cave, they're sitting there studying. They're like, okay, what has been taken? All of this different stuff. They even comment on how she punched the ground and stole a segment of the street, which gave us that great title. But once again, Alfred steps in, and Alfred's like, hold on. You're dealing with something of a mystic nature here. Why don't you go to Gotham's resident mystic, Jason Blood? Ask him. See what's going on.
Tim is the one earlier that says maybe she doesn't like concrete.
Right.
He actually does say it, which is I do like that they brought in Jason Blood though, because he is somebody that has so often been a source of the occult, but also for the Bat family.
Yeah, and I loved how they took the piece of Crime Alley, which is where Batman was born. And I was like, oh, where Batman was born. So we have the Batman villain, the Batman ally, and where he was born. I'm like, oh, man. Now we've already seen the Superman ally. We've seen the Superman villain with Luther Blood. Oh, I'm wondering what each of the pieces is going to be for everybody. I love that. Because now we're getting the full implement of this. And I liked how Tim and Dick recognize we got some serious going on here. Get the Teen Titans involved. Get the Titans involved. JSA, we got to get on guard against all tarot-related museum thefts. Safeguard personal items of the Trinity. They're recognizing that something is going on beyond just, the museum thefts. They're starting to see it. Now, granted, they're a little bit too late, but they're seeing it. And I like how these are heroes able to piece some pieces together.
Well, Batman hasn't been branded at this point.
Right, not yet.
The other, both the other two been branded, or is it just Wonder Woman at this point?
Just Wonder Woman at this point.
Okay, so they've got all of Batman's 3 pieces.
Right.
They've got 1 of Wonder Woman's and 2 of Superman's. It's just interesting. I like how seeing this whole laid out and how it was. This is a perfect point for us to see. And that's one thing I will comment on their pacing, too. They reveal, like, the big events that start tying in together at the right times.
Right.
When we need more information. So it's funny, you talk about the fact this is a long story, and that it's 52 weeks long. The pacing on this has been brilliant.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and... as we jump into issue 11, we're still learning more of the puzzle. We're still seeing more of it. And it's not something that, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. Let's move on. No. Every comic has a little bit of action. Every comic has a little bit of story. They're using the first part and the second part of the comic to relate the story. Sometimes it's backlog information. Sometimes it's current events going on. Maybe it's a little hidden something that we know that the Trinity doesn't know, but it's all unfolding slowly for us. And I love that about this. And, the opening with the henchman stealing the clay that was used to create Diana. I was like, okay, we have that. I was immediately thinking, what are they going to use for Superman? Piece of kryptonite maybe. Maybe it's some of the Kansas farmland. Maybe something personal from Ma and Pa Kent. Maybe the farmhouse. Maybe the ship. I don't know. I was like wondering what was going to be the creation of Superman. That was where I was getting, okay, we've seen all this stuff. We know what's going to be.
And that's why the revealing it when they did was a good thing, because it pulls you more into thinking about the story. And I'm a big fan of writing teams that do that, because once you get into that and get that excited about something, you want to start feeling like the story's a little more interactive.
Yeah.
And that's a strength of this book.
Now, the JLA confronting the Syndicate, I absolutely love this sequence. Because I love it when villains aren't completely stupid. And, they're not.
Yeah, I agree.
And this was a beautiful plan on their part. They're like, hey, welcome to our world, delegates and representatives. We want to parlay with you. We're offering a peaceful negotiation right now. And it was a beautiful plan on their part. They wanted, we don't want further violence because it will destroy our already destroyed world. Let's sit down. We'll talk at noon. Oh, and if you disagree with us, we'll snap Olsen's neck. And he knew right away that that's what they would do if they didn't agree to those terms. But it was a great plan on the Syndicate's part. I love that. I was eating it up. It was something that I was like, yeah, this is a cool way to do this. I'm loving that, as I said, I'm loving intelligent villains, and we're getting that. Plus, we're getting that from villains who aren't always, I don't want to say they're not always that intelligent, but they're always, usually gut-inch reactions. You saw even a couple of them while Ultraman was doing his little spiel saying, oh, God, why are we doing this? Can't we just lash out? No. We stick to the plan. This is what we got to do. And I dig that. That was a nice little twist to it. Now,
I love when they get a hold of Jimmy.
Yeah, the nice little twist.
Yeah. I love that it's Superman that catches it right away. But it was interesting the way that Superman approached it. Again, you're talking about how Superman's a little more violent now, a little bit more aggressive.
Well, he has Bruce and kind of Diana's rage. Mm-hmm. And while Bruce is concerned for, Olsen's safety, you all right, son, when they release him, it's Superman who swoops in. He's like, okay, what's going on here? He's got that Batman rage, that direct confrontation. And I love that. It was just a really cool, just boom, jump in there. And plus, I like the plan. The Syndicate's plan that they had. They throw on the magic lasso, and of course, Olsen just starts a full confession on what's going on. The Syndicate had, status mines planted. They were going to freeze up the JLA. It was all one massive setup, and I was like, nice, because we had a little bit of Superman who saw through Olsen's disguise. He had a little bit of Bruce, the detective nature in him. Heart's on the wrong side. This is wrong. But he couldn't temper the rage because he's not used to dealing with it. And even the Trinity comments when Superman flies off, in a rage, Bruce and Diana are like, hey, he's not himself. Something's going on here. Now, another cool moment. The JLA, as soon as they have this time to plan, they're meeting with the Syndicate at dawn. But first thing they do, they start helping people. And it's granted they can't make everything perfect for these people, but they can make it a little bit better. They can help them. They can nurture. They can bandage up some wounds. Maybe figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And we always talk about heroes just jumping in and doing what they have to. When they were fighting Convict earlier in the series, we saw that. While Superman and Diana were beating on him, the rest of them were getting the injured civilians out of harm's way, trying to minimize damage, get them out of the city. Once again, we're seeing that again, but this time it's on a planetary scope. This place is a desolate, destructive mess.
And they've got the people talking. It was the Shazamazon, I swear. Not Apollo or Zealot, talking about Wildstorm characters. The Twilighter. It's interesting how they were pulling characters from different universes and kind of merging them, trying to figure out who they were. It was the Artemistress, or the Night Falcon, the Star Child, not Galactaman, but like him.
Yeah.
Again, their own legends and stories probably that they've made up along the time of potential savers.
Yeah, and they're all from different worlds, and I like how they're acknowledging, understanding. How many worlds do we have? Oh, we have over 14 different worlds. They're faced with a massive just undertaking on how they're going to fix this, and
how do you get everyone back to where they belong?
And even Bruce and Diana start reflecting on what they can do for this Earth. Bruce doesn't want to abandon them, but Diana calls him out on this. Bruce, you are the pragmatic one. This isn't you talking, it's him. Mm-hmm. It's Superman. And I was eating that up because, oh my God, their personalities are merging. I was eating it up. I love that. It was something that built over several issues, slight, subtle, and it took an extreme situation like this to really bring out the rage in Superman.
Another interesting point we see here, though, and I just want to talk about it real quick, is we also saw John.
Yes.
Once again, his little techno thing kick in and react, which is an interesting point to see that up again.
Yeah. And, of course, the issue ends with I found it kind of funny. They're both sitting there going, hey, Superman's been away for a while. what's going on here? Both realizing, oh no, something's not right here. And of course, we see where Superman is. He's kicking in some teeth. He's got the power of Superman and the rage of Batman going on, and probably the warrior code, the warrior of Wonder Woman. So it's not a good combo. You know somebody's going to get, some smackdown's going to get laid. And I was digging that. I liked seeing this version of Superman. I wouldn't want to see him all the time, but in the context, in this thing, I'm like, oh, this is kind of a cool character. I'm liking it. I'm wondering how they're going to go with this. Are they going to, when are the Trinity's personalities going to come back? Is it going to happen? Are we going to see a little bit more connection between the three of them as a result of this? Mm-hmm. And I was like, definitely interesting stuff.
Perhaps even a greater understanding of each other because of this connection that they've had. I think we're going to see what they know. They know each other in a way that probably nobody knows each other because they've all become each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Superman's become Batman and Wonder Woman, and they've all had that same experience.
With the second part of the story, they did do an art change. And I tell you got to say that there's an art change. It's now Tom Derenick and Wayne Faucher, but it doesn't really jar anything for me. Never once, whenever they're flipping between different artists, do I sit there and say, bam, oh my God, that's so... No. And that's one of the things I got to really say kudos to the art team, to editorial team, to creative team, and just keeping everything consistent. It was, we saw that in 52 a lot, where I liked how it would flow between different artists doing different segments of 52, but it had that nice flow through and everything made sense. Once again, same with this. And once again, as I admitted before, these were some of the stuff that started making me a Hawkamaniac, especially this back issue. I really liked the story, this portrayal of Carter and Gangbuster.
I really liked the bit with Mrs. Jacobson.
Yeah.
Because she goes, oh, Carter, you're even more suave than your father was. Again, this immortal who's reincarnated multiple times would again have, why is he still alive? Well, because of the fact that he's through generations. Yeah. Very similar to Highlander.
Yeah.
Where they would change the name and hand it down through generations. We got that going here, and I like that.
Now, I was digging this because, one, you're seeing Gangbuster in the suit. He's uncomfortable. You're seeing Carter playing kind of the suave role. But as soon as the alarms go off, as soon as there's something going on in the Aeronautics Museum, both Gangbuster and Hawkman leap into action. Both of them are men of action. Both of them are charge out in front. They're both tanks. This as well, probably Gangbuster's more of a scrapper, but Hawkman's definitely the tank. They both leap out. They both have to find out what's going on.
City of Heroes speak.
Yeah, I know. It makes sense.
When I see him go into that, go in for those wings, I think about those wings we saw at Mid-Ohio.
Yes.
We saw the wings.
Hey, only $3,000.
I know.
We'll talk to Mariah. We'll see if she'll let.
I'm sure she'd be fine with it.
Oh yeah.
You want to what?
Well, you want? We could start a fund. Buy Sean's wings.
Yeah, because not just wings though. It was the
it was wings,
headgear,
costume,
the harness.
Yeah, and it had a little Atom action figure.
Was there nth metal?
What?
Do they give you nth metal?
I don't think they gave you nth metal.
Are they fully functional?
I don't think they gave you nth metal.
But they do move, don't they?
They did move because it was a mechanical. You hit a button and they pop out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're automated.
Did they show you?
No, but she told me because I went up and I was talking to her. I told her I had a crazy friend who absolutely loved Hawkman. Who, wondering how much they were and all that.
Yeah, because I was looking at them. I'm like, that would look good. It would really look good on me. I could wear that to work.
Yeah, you could for Halloween.
I could.
Because I bet your kids, you're allowed to dress in
every year. Oh, I do. I actually do dress up for Halloween every year.
Oh, cool.
But I would obviously no longer have that. Well, see, look, okay. I've probably got teaching-wise another 19 years. So if you divide that 3,000 up by 19 years...
Dude, that's
a bargain.
Dude, that's a deal.
I actually do. I dress up in a different costume every year, which means I'm buying, costume materials every year. So if you break that up, I'm probably saving money buying that Hawkman outfit if I use it every year.
There you go.
That's an investment.
There's your in. There's your
investment. That's right.
There's your in, man. And when you tell her, can I be present with my camera? Because that'll be a funny video.
Well, see, honey, here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to buy all of the rest of my... And see, you figure with inflation, Halloween costumes are going to go up in price.
Every year?
Yeah. Huh.
Okay.
$3,000 well spent.
And in the Aeronautical Museum, we see it is the henchman, it's the swashbuckler, and primate. And I tell you, it was funny because I see them stealing a plane. And I'm like, what are they? And then when we see what the significance of the plane is, that was the plane that Superman first saved when he made his debut, a.k.a. the birth of Superman. And I was like, oh, awesome. That right there is a perfect, I was like, completely blew away anything else I had. I love that usage. That was a nice tie to Superman, nice, pull in. It was a really cool sequence. Of course, we also get some more great banter with Primate and with Gangbuster, because she's got the space capsule over his head, and she's like, "Don't worry, I'm not really gonna crush you with the space capsule." And I chuckled. I was like, this is not something you tell the person you're in the middle of the fight with. You're not like, she's like, "I'm a lover, not a fighter," and it swoops Hawkman. Why can't you be both? Now, was Hawkman hitting on her? Yeah, no? Okay, because he's
yelling at her. Why can't you be both?
Right, a lover and a fighter. What's going on there? Because
he's a lover and a fighter.
Yeah, okay.
That's the way he is, with Shayera and all that stuff, and he's trying to be with Kendra. That's who he is.
But why would you? See, I don't. That's the only thing.
Hitting at her. He's not even looking at her.
Yeah, he was looking.
He's not. He's looking right away from her. She's looking at the back of his head.
Well, okay.
And then he's on to the other guy.
Well, it was cool because he was blocking.
He was only in one panel with her.
Well, I don't know. It makes me wonder sometimes.
Okay.
I dig the guy, but that's why I defer.
I think you wanted him to be hitting on her.
I deferred to the expert. I don't know Hawkman, so I deferred to the Hawkman expert. But he's not
even looking at her. What would imply that? It's not like he's swooning.
Well, hey, it could be. It's like, you can be both. Come on, baby. Let me teach you. Kind of thing. It could be that.
Yeah, you think that's what it is?
You know what? He is smooth that way. He could pick up a woman in the middle of battle.
For some monkey love?
I don't know.
It happens.
It could happen.
Yeah.
She's a nice person. I bet you she'd be,
is. It's her personality. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, she's got a good personality.
You said that right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I did dig when he's fighting a swashbuckler and he goes for the swoop in, but the shield has the nth metal weaved into it, so he's able to
disrupt the energy source.
The energy source. That was a cool little bit. I like that, and also later on,
also the explanation of why this shield's particularly different than any other shield he'd be carrying.
Yeah, and also the usage of that shield later, because the villains get their goal, they take off and leave, but as they're leaving, Gangbuster grabs the shield and throws it at him, which Primate catches and saying, "Oh, thanks for the nice souvenir." And they leave with the nth metal, but he wasn't attacking them. He knew they could track the nth metal. And I love that little bit of tie-in, and even Hawkman catches saying, "Hey, good move there."
Nice
smirk. Yeah, he's like, Hawkman recognizes, okay, this dude knows what he's doing. He's got a little bit of experience here. That's a good plan.
Solo series again. I cannot wait for a Hawkman solo series. This is great. This is really great. The handling of Hawkman in here has been absolutely stellar. It's reinvigorated me towards...
And as I said, the Hawkman handling is one of the reasons I became a Hawkamaniac. Now, the other thing that could get very easily lost in this, it was a little quick blip at the end there, is the realization that the bad guys didn't try to steal anything occult related, anything terror related. That was a spaceship. Had nothing to do with that. It only had to do with Superman. They're now, and Oracle saying, "Okay, guys, we have a problem." They're done with the first plan of their attack. They're now on to plan B. We need to figure out what's going on here. I love that realization on her part.
Yeah. And that's where this team effort comes into this whole thing. I am so glad they did not isolate this to Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman.
Right.
That they brought their whole universe into this whole thing. I think that strengthens not only their... That's what I said. This book is... I think this is what people were expecting with the spine of the DC universe with Countdown. I think that's why so many people... I think right from the get-go got down on Countdown without giving it a chance.
Yeah.
Because I think they were expecting this. And we were, we're saying that as fans of Countdown. But I think that's where this is succeeding in the sense that this is kind of thematically.
Yeah, and this could very easily be a spine of the DC. I could see them putting editor notes in different comics saying this occurred during the this issue of.
No, see, that to me is a huge mistake. I think that in itself, I think that's what they realized with Countdown. They originally intended to do just what you're saying, and I think they realized that scope and sequence-wise, scope and scale-wise, is just an impossibility. And in this case, it's much better to craft a story that thematically is a jumping on point for everybody to get into the universe. This is thematically, if this is the book that if you've got somebody who's never read DC before, give them this. Let them get attached to these characters. They're so well written. I'm interested in Oracle. Go read some Birds of Prey. I'm interested in Wonder Woman. Go read Wonder Woman.
Right.
I'm interested in Superman. Read Action Comics, Superman, Supergirl. Jump on this. Batman's great in this. Jump on the Bat Family books. I'm loving Tim Drake and Nick Nightwing.
Yeah, pick up those both. Yeah, pick up both of those series because they're doing constant interaction between the two of them. Yeah,
jump on Ram Thanagar and enjoy. Look for his solo series that's coming. And I mean, this is a great way thematic because by the time this is done, the solo series should be, I'm guessing, in place.
Yeah, should be.
Yeah. So I mean, this is thematically just a great series to jump on. Justice League. It's what a great book to jump on from this. So it's a great book that right now would be the perfect jumping on point. And this is something I think they need to look at when they're done with this, just to continue this. Instead of worrying about tying it into something. Because I think 52 and Countdown were both tied into, big universe-shaking events. This is just... And I enjoyed both of those. But this, I think, is more accessible to everybody in the sense that it doesn't tie into anything. It's just a good story that's just by itself. So, I don't know, it's kind of, I think, thematically. And I'm saying that, again, as a fan of both of the previous weeklies, but I think where this one succeeds is it's something... And I'm afraid for this one that I think there's people who maybe don't want to try a weekly again that are missing this, that should be reading this, because it's great, so...
Amen.
Can Batman escape? One hint, the worst is yet to come.
Hey guys, this is Mike, who we've met a couple times at the New York Comic Con. Anyway, I was just listening to episode 136, and I just heard the listener voicemail that tried to explain why Superman and Ultraman could touch. And even though the explanation of the two Ultramen would make sense, unfortunately, it doesn't work in this case. The Ultraman from Earth 3, the new Earth 3 that was formed after 52, I'm pretty sure the only time he's ever appeared is in 52 and in Search for Ray Palmer. I don't think he and our Superman have ever met. The Antimatter Universe Superman from the Antimatter Earth 2 has met Superman a bunch of times, and they've touched a whole bunch of times, including recently in Brave and the Bold, and just a couple weeks ago in Trinity. They fought like crazy in the Antimatter Universe. So why they can touch sometimes and why they can't sometimes is still a mystery. But that new Ultraman from the new Earth 3 has only met a handful of people from our Earth just during Search for Ray Palmer. That's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Yeah, I'm back to being confused.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We don't know yet. We'll figure it out.
Because he's right.
Yeah.
The things that he's saying. So I'm like, I don't know. And the explanation was really good on the last one, too, so I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not really, beating my head against the wall over it. It's one of those things. But I thought both sides made, both the last comment and this one make valid points. Because he was right. The one that was the last comment was right, that there are the two Ultramen, and he was right on how they work. But then he's making a great point here, too, about the antimatter versus Earth 3 and what, that they haven't really seemed to have met. I don't know. I'm so confused.
Well, the one thing, what I was thinking is, one night in Bangkok makes a hard man humble. Okay. So you got
that was where you chose to fit it in?
Yeah, see, it fits.
It really doesn't. It totally derailed the conversation.
Especially if you put this before that other comment. People are like, what the hell is he doing?
No, we're going in chronological order,
okay.
So it's okay. It'll make perfect sense. Although I should throw it ahead of it now.
No, seriously, though. I don't know what's going on with the Supermans, with the antimatter universe, which Superman's Ultraman, which was... It's one of those things I'm just going to choose to ignore.
I still think there's...
Let's go on.
You know what?
Because I don't want to make my head hurt.
And see, I like making my head hurt. So no,
okay.
see, this is one that'll stick with me, and I'll be listening. So I mean, if anybody has more continued explanation on this to like kind of clarify and connect it all, please do, because I like it being connected, and I'll still be in my head trying to figure out how to connect it because it bugs me. So I'll try to find even some off-camera justification as to why this works. I do need that. It's funny.
Yeah.
I don't get upset. Like, I'm not mad or upset or anything like that. I'm just going to figure out a way in my own head to justify it. That's what I do. So I don't know. I guess that's the way for me continuity has to work. I'll figure out in my head some kind of off-camera storytelling that makes everything fit nicely to me. And I know it seems strange and weird, and it is.
No, hey, Dave, no, it's not weird or strange. I understand completely. I just I'm just going the more lazier route, maybe, because I'm like, I'll just accept it. It's one of those things where I was like, it's okay.
But everybody reads differently. So like, some people are like me, where they try to, they make up their own way that it fits. They look at different storytelling from the past, and then they kind of make their own little connections and find a way to make it work, even though it technically shouldn't. I need to do that. Other people like really get mad, and they want it in the writing. They want it concrete. They need to see it there, and I can respect that. And then on your end, you're just enjoying the stories. They're good stories. We're talking about Trinity. You love Trinity right now, so it doesn't. So you like Superman Beyond 3D. You don't really care because they're good stories, and it's for the sake of good stories. And I can respect that too, because the storytelling that you're reading, you're liking the Trinity storyline. You're liking the Superman Beyond storyline. So little tiny things like that don't bother you. I think everyone's a little different. They fall into different categories. You and I are in two very different categories there, but it's not an issue of right and wrong. It's just we do it differently, and that's okay. But if anybody has further justification of this, or they can explain it to me, please do. Because I'm the one that'll be sitting here with my head hurting. Because I will try to figure it out.
Actually, let me say then, if you have the answer, don't give it to us. Let's torture Sean with it. Send in your comments saying, I know the answer, but I'm not going to tell you.
Send those to senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com. That's one more time, senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com. Because I don't want to see them.
Hi guys, Logan from Canada here. Just wanted to give you a shout out and tell you how much I am enjoying your podcast. I am fairly new to, subscribing to podcasts, but yours is definitely the one that I look forward to each and every week. Wanted to comment and I guess get your comments on the return of Barry Allen. I, for one, am not overly looking forward to this. Don't get me wrong, I really like the Barry Allen character. However, I thought it was extremely classy the way that DC years and years ago in the first Crisis, had the Flash die. I've quite enjoyed over the years how they haven't kind of scooted this under the carpet. They've embraced the Flash and his legacy in probably just about every DC title and with every DC character in a medium where death doesn't really mean anything. I really, really thought that dealing with Barry's death, heroic death, and again, everybody, paying homage to him time and time again was extremely good. Just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on the Flash's return. Again, great job, and I look forward to your podcast each and every week.
It's funny, when I was listening to his audio com, my first reaction was, well, I'm loving the return of Barry. Everything's great. And I still feel that way. But as he was talking about death in comics and how death doesn't stick, and I'm of two minds on this, being honest. And I mean, please share yours after. Marv Wolfman, who originally wrote the story, has been quoted as saying that he never intended for Barry to stay dead. So, I mean, that's a big thing for me. But in comics, I guess it is one of those things, it's like you say, you kind of expect that heroes come back. I've read all those stories too, and I agree with you. I always loved the fact that they honored the fact that this character was dead and found a way to use it to make for interesting storytelling. I've always liked that. I liked how, speaking of Superboy, Connor Kent,
Yeah.
They've used him in Titans to, they didn't ignore it. They actually did some wonderful storytelling involving his death, where that meant something and has driven something. When Supergirl, in the most recent issue of Supergirl, was handed the glasses from him, it meant something.
Yeah.
There was some draw to it. So I understand what he's saying there. I'm of two minds.
Yeah, Tim switched around the colors of the Robin costume to black and red because those were Connor's colors.
Right.
It's just, you can have this honoring still, and it's, when we think about Barry, that was a great sacrifice. That was absolutely a beautiful, just run, you keep running to save the universe. It's the Flash running to their death. But on the same hand, talk about Hal Jordan's death as he's flying into the dying sun, doing the Green Lantern oath, and boom.
That would be on the other hand.
What'd I say?
The same hand.
Well, on the other hand. You know what I mean? But it's still, that was an equally wonderful...
I had to sit through One Night in Bangkok.
Yeah. You think that's the only time I'm going to sing that song? So you have Hal doing that great sacrifice, which... I'll read that and just go, oh, that is just that coolest thing where he's flying it. But the Green Lantern Rebirth was just as, it didn't take away from the monumental moment. So, it comes down to the fact that Jeff Johns is writing the Flash Rebirth and all
Ethan
of this.
Van Sciver on the art.
Ethan Van Sciver, there's no worry whatsoever or doubt in my mind that this is going to be an amazing story that we're going to read just because of this creative team.
Yeah, and what I said with before, like where I was on two minds of it too. The other side for me tends to be, I am all about, like we were talking about Connor Kent, them using that to further storytelling. And when a character dies, Blue Beetle is a great example where they've used that in interesting ways. Even in the way that they brought him back in Booster Gold and used that as a way to, use that character in a way where even though the resolution was that he's back to being dead, you got to see again the hero making the choice that this was the right way to go. To me, if they're going to bring back Barry, and this is not just Barry, this is any comic character. Colossus in the X-Men is a great example of a character I'm so glad they brought back. They brought him back in a way that Astonishing X-Men was much more interesting because they brought him back. And to see the fastball special and to see all that again, it's a great example of a good character being brought back. And they've used him in like currently in X-Men. They're using him in such an interesting way in the Uncanny book right now that I'm really just enjoying reading Colossus again. That, to me, is the key. It's a great example. Hal Jordan, great example. Sinestro Corps War. Everything that's come out of it, this retelling of the origins, going to lead into Blackest Night. It's far more interesting because the writer who brought him back had something to do with it. It wasn't for a shock. Sometimes they bring heroes or characters in general, villains, whatever, back for a quick shock. Oh my gosh, look who's back to life, and they don't know what to do with them afterwards. That is when I have an issue with it, because then it diminishes the whole thing. But in the case of Barry, it looks like it's not just about bringing him back for Final Crisis. There is a plan for him beyond Final Crisis. And that, to me, if there's a plan and you've got some storytelling out of it, the Flash franchise right now, they're saying we're having trouble getting the Flash franchise the way that people are looking for it. We tried to do some things with Wally. People haven't been crazy about that. We're trying to do some things with Bart. People weren't crazy about that. So we're going to try now a different reboot. I liked all those things, but, they're looking for mass market. What does everybody like? So, they're trying something new with Barry. I'm excited. I like the Flash concept. And, I've enjoyed Bart. I've enjoyed Wally. I want to see what they're going to do with Barry. That, to me, is whether or not it was worth it. So that's where I'm of two minds of it. And totally agreeing with what he's saying about the rich storytelling when he was dead and how they did everything like that. I agree with him 100%. So it was an interesting audio comment to listen to because I found myself kind of teeter-tottering as I was listening to it because he makes some excellent points. But that's kind of where I'm at. It's all about the storytelling. If there's good stories to be told and you're going to do it, and you've got a plan for this character that's going to make him interesting, and he's going to be like a Colossus. He's going to be like a Green Lantern. He's going to be, those are good reasons to bring somebody back.
Yeah, you can bring back or use any character if there's a reason behind it, if there's a good story behind it. It's all in the storytelling, what they're going to do, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it.
You filthy criminals.
Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Reminding you about Gone Volume 7. Regularly $5.99, 40% off, only $3.59. Supergirl Cosmic Adventures in the 8th grade #1. It's at a special discount. It's regularly $2.50, 50% off, only $1.25. Whatever your shipping preferences, your bag and boarding preferences, DCBService.com accommodates your collecting needs. Don't forget our In-Stock Trades book of the month for October is Simulated Stereo's choice of Doom Patrol Volume 2, The Painting That Ate Paris. We'll be airing this episode in November, probably towards the end of the month right now, because we're just wrapping up with 7 Soldiers. So we'll definitely air it in November. And it's regularly $19.95, 40% off, only $10.57. And then we've got Heavy Liquid, the hardcover by Paul Pope, and it's regularly $39.99, only $25.19 with the 37% off discount, which does to me affect a purchase within that much of a discount.
Definitely.
InStockTrades.com is your source for your collected edition needs. Thanks for supporting us, DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Jim, our next episode, we are going to be having, actually for the next 2, I'll just tell the content on that because we'll see how it works out with our recording, what is the best way to release it. We've got a Terror Titans segment that we've been saving, that we've already recorded. We're going to get that out. We also have a Book of the Month in 7 Soldiers that we're going to be starting on. We're either going to do that in 2 segments between 2 episodes or in 1 segment on 1 episode, depending on how the recording works. We have Freddie E. Williams II coming on to chat about Robin. We're recording that on Monday, so that's either going to go on this week's, coming week's show or next week's show. Will depend on how that's going to fit as well. We have a Speeding Bullets segment coming up, because you and I have a ton of comics that we want to chat about. So we're going to be getting those in as well. We have a Top Bullet segment coming. We're definitely going to be talking about the recent stuff going on in the Final Crisis minis, the new Krypton stuff that we're going to be chatting about. I don't know if we're going to do that in Speeding Bullets or in full-blown segments. They're going to be pretty meaty discussions.
Either way, it's going to be
kind of talk that out. Yeah. And more Trinity as well. So we got a lot coming in the next couple of episodes. Keep an eye on RagingBullets.com and the forums, and I'll tell you what those episodes are going to look like as we go through. I'm excited because a lot of that ties really heavily into, because Volume 3 starts into the Mr. Miracle story, which ties heavily into Final Crisis and theme.
Right.
And Jim, what is Top Bullets?
Well, Top Bullets is a way for you all to get involved in the show. You send in your top 5, top 2, top 7, whatever you want to send in. What the books you're raging about. What are your top of your picks? What's the top of your pull list? Maybe send me a little something about what and why you are enjoying it, and I will take all the listener totals, contabulate them into one master list. Read it, Sean and I will comment on it, then we'll give you our lists as well. So this is a great interaction, and we'll still take some more September listing if you want to. Who knows? Maybe your one submission will be to put that thing right over the top of the list, to bump it up from an honorable mention, because I'll tell you right now, we've contabulated the list so far, but there's a couple titles that are in that honorable mention spot. I'm not going to say which ones, but there's a couple where they are 1, maybe 2 votes away from making it into the top 5. So who knows? Maybe there's a book like, I hope it's this one. Let me throw it out there, and here's why. Send your stuff to senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com.
What's that address?
Senseiofwhatnot@gmail.com.
We have an ongoing contest as well, too. We're always looking for website content. So anything you send to us as a formal submission, please send them to ragingcontest@gmail.com. Review a comic, write an article, write a blog, create a banner, anything. If you look at our site and say, guys, I'm real great at creating banners. Here's some new banners for your website. Great. The type of stuff is fantastic. That's your talent. Where's Whatnot Nows? Those are always, anytime those come in, those are contest entries. Comic strips, we've had people create comic strips, audio comments. Rick Croxton going to be closing out our show with an audio comment. That counts as a submission. So, any of those things that you're doing that are a little bit extra and above and beyond, please send them to ragingcontest@gmail.com. I'm flexible with new ideas, so if you got something wacky that you think that you would like to do, please let me know. Bullet points reviews from listeners are always welcome. That's a section that we got a ton of them from our last batch of entries, so that's ongoing. So our next one is Simulated Stereo's Doom Patrol, but then we're going to be doing one after that from a listener as well. So I'm always excited to listener content. It'll be after we do our 7 Soldiers Volume 4. So we're going to keep going on and on with this listener participation part. I'm excited to talk with him about Doom Patrol, though.
It's one of those things when we had that little exposure back in Brave and the Bold, I was like, man, I want to read more of these guys. I want to see what's going on with them.
Especially with this being Morrison, it's going to be wacky.
It's going to be freaky, yeah.
we're closing out this episode right now. Instead of our usual blooper reel, this is going to be all Rick Croxton. He did this wonderful audio comment on Flash Gordon that we're going to be closing out the show with, and Jim and I respond to it at the end. So we had a nice little mini segment at the end of the show. And I decided to put it there rather than doing a blooper reel because we had some voicemails that we put throughout, and this kind of is a segment unto itself. So we're going to have a segment at the end of the show. So we'll close it out with Rick Croxton, Flash Gordon, and Jim and myself talking about our own experiences with the character of Flash Gordon. So it's interesting. We will see you next week.
Bye.
This is Rick Croxton from the Book Cave, telling you about a DC series that came out in 1988. It's one of their self-contained universes. It's Flash Gordon, the 9-issue series, with the writer Dan Jurgens and inker Bruce Patterson. The series, even though it's from 1988, the dialogue is a bit dated, along with the hairstyles and most of what you see in there. But it is still very well written and very entertaining. You will be very happy to read all 9 issues of this thing and come out feeling that you got your money's worth. Most of the book feels like a rewritten plot from the 1980 Flash Gordon movie with Sam Jones. Instead of having Flash Gordon being an ex-football player, here he is a 41-year-old ex-basketball player with an ex-wife and a daughter who you only see in a flashback one time. Check it out for an enjoyable read. This will be one other appearance that Flash Gordon will appear in DC Comics in another series as a cameo. But I'll let you guess that one yourself until I give it out in my next review. Thank you. This is Rick Croxton signing off from the Book Cave.
I want to apologize to Rick. He sent me that a little while back, and it was one of those that I really wanted to get on the show. Have you read any Flash Gordon? I mean, what is your experience with Flash Gordon?
I
know you saw the movie.
Yeah, my experience is the movie, of course. And as soon as you said Flash Gordon, the thing that was popping in my head was Flash! Ah! The whole, the movie and all that. So that was going through my head immediately. And I dig the movie. And I've actually seen a couple different variations and versions of Flash Gordon. I've never read this Flash Gordon comic.
Serials? Have you seen? Did you see the old classic serials?
I've seen a
Buster
couple.
Crab?
I've seen some stuff, and I've seen some older comics of Flash Gordon. I've read some older Flash Gordon comics. I don't know if I don't think I read this one, but I'm talking like just the old large style print of Flash Gordon type stuff, and just in passing. And I don't know, I've always digged the notion that the Earthman who goes to this mystic strange land, and the old Flash Gordon cartoon I used to watch all the time.
Oh yeah, and that was serialized as well.
There's various other versions of the story that we won't get into because we're doing a more cleaner podcast.
Oh, jeez, now I know where you're going with that. It's funny that I've never read this one, which is surprising because I love Flash Gordon. It's an interesting character. Like, I bought all this, but it really is the media version of him more. The newspaper strips. The old library when I was a kid growing up, Wycliffe Public Library, used to have it was a hardcover collection. I'm like moving my hand like I'm paging through it right now. Like this is a visual medium anyway. But the Wycliffe Public Library had a bound collection of those old serials. It was a hardcover.
Oh, cool.
Of the old newspaper strips, and I always liked those. So I'm a big fan of kind of the pulpy sci-fi. I know there's a new Flash Gordon series that's just being published. I forget the publisher right now, but that's one that I think I want to start picking up because I know the issue 1 is definitely out, maybe issue 2 as well. But there's a new series out. But I'll go back and check out this 1988 one if you enjoyed it. It's interesting the concept of him with a family. That there was an ex-wife and there was a daughter. I wonder if that plays into the mini at all. So I would be curious to check that out. He said that she pops up in a flashback, but how does he deal with that being away from his daughter? And
just the whole concept of him being a basketball player as opposed to being a football player, because it's the football players you think are rugged or bigger, they're tougher, they're men of adventure, whereas the basketball players have more. It's not that it's not a physical sport. Take a look at Shaq. He's a big guy, but there is more finesse and style in basketball than there is with football.
Speed and endurance, too, though.
Right.
Which would fit running around Mongo.
Yeah, so there's definitely... But, when I think of a football player, I do think of, especially Flash Gordon was the quarterback.
Right.
So he was the golden boy, the perfect body, kind of look to him. I don't get that type of vibe when I think basketball player.
But that was the Sam Jones movie version. Does that mean that I don't know that all versions necessarily had him being a football player.
Most
like
of them
the original
do.
movie serials. Did
I
those?
thought most of them had him being a football player.
Really, I don't know.
But I'm not 100% certain on that, but I thought most of them had him being an athlete, had him being a professional athlete that gets pulled over to Mongo.
No, he's a polo player, and back in some of the originals.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it's you're right on the athlete end of it. It seems like the consistent thing is that he was some form of athlete, but he's a polo player from Yale. In some of the serials. So I mean, it's that's why I'm like, I don't remember the football player being necessarily the hook with him every time. But the athlete thing is consistent.
Yeah.
So football player, basketball player, polo player, whatever, they all kind of fit that he would be an athletic man in this world. It would fit running around on Mongo.
Yeah, and just
sense.
Also just the willing to the chutzpah to step up and do some crazy stuff that he has to do in these adventures.
This has got me Flash Gordon happy again. I'm probably going to try to watch the serials at some point in time this week.
Well, I got the song going through my head, so...
Well, the movie I've seen recently, the Flash Gordon, the Sam Jones movie, but I'm talking about the actual black and whites. I've got those in a DVD collection, and I haven't had a chance to... I watched them years ago on VHS, but I bought the serials with the intention of like, hey, I want to rewatch them now, because I always liked those. So...
Do you remember the old cartoon, The Defenders of the Earth?
Yes.
Yeah, with because Gordon was one of the
yes.
I still even remember
the Phantom was on that too.
Yeah, the Phantom.
What's it? There's a few heroes. I don't remember. I remember the Phantom and Flash Gordon.
Mandrake.
For sure. Yes. Yeah.
And the sad thing is, as we're saying this, the theme song is popping in my head.
Of
Defenders of the Earth.
Do you know it?
Defenders of the Earth, and it was like each one had their own different things. Like Phantom was out of the jungle. Oh God, the beast, something like the beast calling brother, the ghost who walks, and then there was like out of the sky, his rockets ignite, flying fast into battle, faster than light. Flash Gordon, and
I'm impressed.
Mandrake is masters of magic, spells, and illusion. Enemies crumble in fears and confusion. Mandrake.
Dude, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
That's really impressive that you remember that much. 'Cause when was the last time you saw that?
Junior high, elementary school.
Do you think you are perhaps one of the biggest fans of Defender of the Earth by the fact that you know the theme song?
Yeah, maybe. I guess so.
Yeah. I remember the cartoon. It was a very good cartoon.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching that one. Boy, they got me Flash Gordon happy now. That's cool. That you know Thank you, actually. I really enjoyed it, and I apologize for the delay on getting this audio coming out there. But that was a very good one.